Good morning, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order at 10 a.m. As many of you know, the governor has signed Public Act 101-0640, making certain amendments to the Open Meetings Act so that we, along with other boards and commissions, can continue to host virtual meetings during the COVID-19 public health emergency, provided that certain conditions are met. One of those conditions is that I, as head of the Chicago Plan Commission, determined that an in-person meeting of the Chicago Plan Commission is not practical nor prudent. I want to make sure our virtual meeting meets all of the conditions of the Open Meetings Act as amended. Therefore, I am making a determination pursuant to the newly created Section 72 of the Open Meetings Act that an in-person meeting of the Chicago Plan Commission is not practical nor prudent. Similarly, I am also making a determination pursuant to the newly created Section E5 that because of the disaster as declared by the governor, it is unfeasible for at least one member of the Chicago Plan Commission or its chief administrative officer or its chief legal officer to be physically present at the meeting, inasmuch as there is no physical meeting place. Before we get into the full meeting agenda for the September 16, 2021 Chicago Plan Commission meeting, I would like to ask everyone that because we are meeting virtually, please be mindful of your surroundings in terms of noise. Please remember to keep yourself muted when you are not speaking. The meeting is being recorded and also live streamed for public viewing. Lastly, if you are an active participant in the meeting, especially if you are speaking, please do not watch the live stream as this will cause audio interference. Thank you. I want to also quickly provide guidance to those who have pre-registered to provide testimony on the cases presented for a public hearing today. Those who requested to testify at the Plan Commission today should have already submitted testimony forms, which included the speaker's full name and address, as well as the public hearing item number, and those forms have been gathered by the staff. I would also like to remind our presenters to please be mindful of their presentation length. Please stay on point in a concise and efficient manner so as to respect the time of all in attendance. Out of respect for others, speakers will limit their comments to 3 minutes. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted to allow you to make your comments. The public comment portion of the meeting is not a question and answer session of staff or the applicant, but an opportunity for attendees to voice their opinions on a particular proposal. Out of respect for others, please do not interrupt or disrupt the speakers. Any individual who does disrupt the presentation or any subsequent comment session may be muted and removed from the virtual hearing session. I will now do roll call. Commissioner Biaggi. Commissioner Brumfeld.
Here.
Commissioner Burnett.
Here.
Commissioner Kulova is here. Commissioner Cox.
Here.
Commissioner Flores.
Here.
You, Commissioner Garza. I know it's coming, but we'll have to leave early, I believe. Commissioner Grossman. Is that here? Not here. Commissioner Kelly. Commissioner Kelly, I know is also coming, but we'll have to leave this afternoon. Commissioner Lightfoot. Commissioner Lyons.
Here.
Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Murphy.
Here.
Commissioner Novata, I believe, is at a groundbreaking and will come later. Commissioner Osterman. Commissioner Barkley is not coming. Commissioner, we look forward to having him at a meeting. Commissioner Reyes is also coming a little bit later. I think she's also at a well, she's coming in a bit. Commissioner Searle. I see you, Commissioner Searle, thank you. Commissioner Shaw is here, yes?
Yes, here.
Commissioner Sposato, not here. Commissioner Tunney?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Villegas. I believe he's also coming. And Commissioner Wagesbuck, I think I saw you as well.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you,
Chairwoman,
everyone.
do we want to go back to Commissioner Garza? I believe he's here now.
Yeah, I am here. Sorry, I had some
Fantastic.
technical issues. I'm
Okay.
here, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I thought you were, yes, thank you.
Madam Chair, Kelly's here too. I was stuck in the waiting room.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, Commissioner Kelly is here. All of these folks here at roll call. Thank you. We will now approve the minutes from the August 26, 2021 regularly scheduled Plan Commission meeting. The minutes were distributed prior to today's hearing. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting of the Chicago Plan Commission held on August 26, 2021?
Moved by Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Commissioner. Seconded by?
Second by Garza.
Thank you. Seconded by Garza. And I, again, must do roll call. Commissioner Biaggi, Commissioner Brumfeld,
Yes.
Commissioner Burnett.
So it should be fine, but that was the only.
Yes.
Commissioner Porter was a yes. Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
Commissioner Barkley. I'm sorry, why did I write him down? Yes, okay. Commissioner Searle,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunney,
Yes.
and Commissioner Wagesbuck.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We will now take public testimony for the items remaining on the agenda today. I also want to remind commissioners, we do have two letters that came in on two different items.
Amen.
People who signed in to speak on items today, we total of 2 people. When I call your name, please wait a moment until you are unmuted and then you may proceed to speak. Please be reminded that you will have 3 minutes to speak. First speaker is Butler Adams on item D2, followed by Giovanna Quigley on item D4, and then that will conclude the list of those who completed speaking forms. So Butler Adams on item D2.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, well, good morning, commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is Butler Adams, and I wanted to say I was in support of the 160 North Morgan project. I did attend the virtual community meeting that they had earlier this year. And again, I support this project. I'm slightly disappointed at the reduction in height and density, however small it may be. And I did read one of the letters posted. There was only one letter posted for this particular project, and I did see that there were some concerns about, height, traffic, and density, which is kind of the, sorry to say, NIMBY trifecta of things that are always a concern in the downtown area. But I just want to reiterate that this project is going up within the expanded central area, and this is a DX zoning. And with DX zoning, there is no particular height limitation. A roughly 26-story tall building with 280 units is wrapping up to the west at Ogden and Randolph, 1400 West Randolph. And Related Midwest just broke ground a few weeks ago on a 43-story tall building at 900 West Randolph. So this area is changing very rapidly and very quickly in terms of the tall buildings. I mean, a lot of the buildings in the area have been landmarked. For the 900 building, the area is landmarked. Nothing is being torn down of any valued architectural styles for this particular project. And I understand that people are a little bit concerned about how fast the area is changing, but the fact is the area is changing and has been changing for the better part of a decade. For the design of this particular project, the architecture has changed slightly. There were some vertical columns at one time. Now you have kind of this diagonal beams, which are very interesting. I do hope that the architect can maybe do some very interesting lighting scheme inside of that rectangular void that you all will see once you get to this particular project. Over the main entrance, there's kind of a void in the southern part of the building, and there's a very unique kind of angled ceiling. And if that was somehow illuminated at nighttime, I think that could be maybe a very nice kind of visual point of that particular building near ground level. Otherwise, I certainly look forward to speaking on more projects in the West Loop. I know there's some on the way. There was a community meeting just last night for a project at like May and Carroll. You're talking nearly 400 feet. So the height issue has kind of run its course, and I hope the projects aren't dumbed down anymore because of height and density. Again, this is downtown, and this is where it should be. This is an area, a part of the city that's actually gaining population and growing, and that should be encouraged. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope this project is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Giovanna Quigley on item D4.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my questions. This is in regards to 1400 West Harrison application for a hospital expansion for the Rush. I have a few questions related to this project. The first one is whether there was some kind of traffic analysis to estimate the additional traffic. I actually was reading the presentation. There were some responses there, so I appreciate the information that was provided. My second question was whether the applicant has performed any kind of analysis regarding the additional noise created by this development. I understand that there will be no emergency room in this building, but are there ambulances that will be expected to drive patients to this location, and whether the sirens would be utilized in this case if it's not an emergency? So just trying to understand the noise impact in that neighborhood. And my last question, I have had an opportunity to read the application file, the PDF document, and on page 71, there is a site drawing that is titled Site Plan Future Development, and it shows that 2 additional buildings will be built in the same location. So it seems that this is a 2-phase project where the initial building that is currently under review will be the first portion, but there is an intent to build the 2 additional buildings. They are marked as future garage and future building. So I would like to ask the applicant what is the purpose and function of these buildings, how high they will be, when they will be built, and things of that nature. I'd like to understand what that phase 2 looks like in regards to this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We don't answer those questions now, but we will be mindful of those questions when we get to that item. So thank you for taking the time to come and share your questions with us. We turn now to matters submitted in accordance with the Interagency Planning Referral Act. Do I have a motion to approve item number 1 under the NLAP heading?
It was moved by Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Commissioner. Seconded by?
Commissioner Lyons?
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, Commissioner Brumfeld.
Yes.
And Chairwoman, I've joined.
Oh, you're here. Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic.
sorry
Okay,
for being late.
that's okay. Welcome. All right, so, and your vote on that one then
It's
is
a yes. Thank you.
Commissioner Burnett,
Yes.
Commissioner Cordova is a yes, Commissioner Cox? Commissioner Cox, Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores is a yes, Commissioner Gaza?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Kelly?
Kelly's a yes.
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Searle?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Shaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunney?
Yes.
And Commissioner Wagesbach?
Yes.
Great, thank you. All righty, so now we move to matters, the public hearing presentation portion for matters submitted in accordance with the Lake Michigan and Chicago Lakefront Protection Ordinance and/or the Chicago Zoning Ordinance. First item on the agenda is D1, a proposed amendment to residential business plan development number 1272, submitted by 1550 North Clark, Chicago owner LLC for the property generally located at 1546-1556 North Clark Street, 101-129 West North Avenue, and 1555-1565 North LaSalle Street. The property is currently zoned residential business plan development number 1272 and is comprised of 2 sub-areas, A and B. The applicant is proposing to add animal services, veterinary, as a permitted use within sub-area A. No changes are proposed to sub-area B. Item 20783, and this is in the 2nd Ward. Catherine Hurd is up and ready to go, and she will provide the context overview, and the applicant will present their proposal. Ms. Hurd.
Good morning. Thank you. For the record, my name is Catherine Hurd with the Department of Planning and Development. The applicant, 1550 North Clark, Chicago owner, LLC, is here today to request approval of an amendment to Residential Business Plan Development 1272, which, as mentioned, is generally located at 1546 to 1556 North Clark Street, 101 to 129 West North Avenue, and 1555 to 1565 North LaSalle Street, which is at the corner of Clark Street and North Avenue. The plan development is comprised of two sub areas, A and B. The applicant proposes to amend the plan development to allow for veterinary use in sub area A, but no other changes are proposed. The site is located in the North region at the nexus of three neighborhoods, Lincoln Park, Old Town, and the Gold Coast. It is also within the near North Side community area, which is a growing area that is primarily single households and has a high percentage of residents that do not own cars and tend to commute via transit, bicycle, or walking. The site is within a mixed-use area right across from Lincoln Park and near the lakefront. It is within the private use zone of the Lake Michigan and Chicago Lakefront Protection District. But please note the scope of this project does not meet the requirements for lakefront approval. So this is only being reviewed as a PD amendment today. The property is outlined in red on North Avenue between LaSalle and Clark. The bird's eye photo on the right shows the site's context. It's near several transit lines, entertainment, cultural and institutional uses. And now I'd like to pass it off to Jack George from Ackerman to go over the details of the proposed technical amendment.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. Thanks very much, Catherine. These next few slides give a context of where our project is. As Catherine indicated, this is a technical amendment just to permit a veterinary store on the bottom level of the building in question. When you look at this slide, can you turn the next slide, please? This slide here shows the context. The building that's depicted up in where the arrow is pointing is the new building that has been put up, which is a residential building. The slide on the bottom shows the two sub areas, sub area A and sub area B. As we indicated, neither one of these buildings are being affected. This is just a technical amendment for a veterinary store. To the right there, you can see the other, it's a context photo showing the other uses in the area, Lincoln Park, the Latin School, Moody Church, etc. The next slide, please. This is just some more photos of the existing built residential building. As I indicated, this is PD 1272. And this right now, there are presently, the residential building has residential uses in the building. This is on the southwest corner of Clark and North Avenue. And these are just two photos of the new building that has been constructed there. The next photo, please. This is just another contextual photo. It shows a view looking north along Clark Street, and right behind where that car is at is the Village Theater, which is a landmark building, which is part of our PD. And then to the right is just another view looking east along North Avenue. As I've indicated, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee, this is a proposed technical amendment. It's just to allow an animal service, a veterinary use to be on the lower level, the first floor of sub area A only. There are no boarding services that are permitted, and overnight care would be only for sick animals. And as I've indicated, and as Catherine indicated, there are no other changes to the PD, and we would respectfully ask for a recommendation of this plan development amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, for the record, Catherine Hurd from DPD. The Department of Planning and Development has reviewed the project materials submitted by the applicant and has concluded that the proposed additional use would be appropriate because it is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood context and zoning. A veterinary use can serve the building's residents and adjacent community by taking advantage of the available transit, bicycle, and pedestrian networks in this area. Please refer to the staff report for further details regarding this project and the plans identified here today. Based on the foregoing, it is the recommendation of the zoning administrator that this application to amend residential business plan development 1272 be approved and forwarded to the City Council Committee on Zoning Landmarks and Building Standards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hurd. I'm not seeing any questions from commissioners. Do we have a statement, or is he here, Alderman Hopkins?
Alderman Hopkins is not here. This is Brian Pellrine on behalf of the Alderman on his staff. He has no objection to this amendment, given that there is no overnight boarding other than incidental services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. With that, do I have a motion on the proposed amendment to residential business plan development number 1272, submitted by 1550 North Clark, Chicago Owner LLC for the property generally located at 1546-1556 North Clark Street, 101-129 West North Avenue, and 1555-1565 North LaSalle Street, finding that it meets the requirements for approval.
Moved by Commissioner
Garza.
Shaw.
Second by Garza.
Commissioner Garza, fantastic. Thank you both. Commissioner Biaggi,
Yes.
Commissioner Brumfeld,
Yes.
Commissioner Burnett,
Yes.
Commissioner Cordova is a yes. Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Kelly's a yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
Commissioner Searle,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunney,
Yes.
and Commissioner Wagasbuck.
Yes.
Fantastic. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is D2, a proposed residential business plan development submitted by 160 North Morgan LLC for the property generally located at 160 North Morgan Street. The applicant is proposing to rezone the site from C1-2 Neighborhood Commercial District to DX-7 Downtown Mixed Use District, and then to a residential business plan development. The applicant proposes to construct a 29-story, 350-foot tall building with 282 residential units, ground floor commercial space, and 89 accessory vehicular parking spaces. A 3.01 floor area ratio bonus will be taken, and the overall FAR of the plan development will be 10.01. 20631, this is in the 27th Ward. Joshua San will provide the context overview, and the applicant will present their proposal. Mr. San, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Joshua Sun with the Department of Planning and Development. This proposed development is generally located at 160 North Morgan Street and is located within the near West Side community area within the 27th Ward. The applicant, 160 North Morgan LLC, and their development team appear here today for the purposes of establishing a residential business plan development at the subject site. The request is being submitted as a mandatory plan development application pursuant to section 17-08-0512 due to the fact that the proposed building will exceed 155 feet in height in the proposed underlying DX-7 downtown mixed-use district. The subject site is located in the near West Side community area where the total population is 67,800 in an area that developed rapidly in the late 19th and 20th centuries as an important industrial and manufacturing area. The site consists of sub-area A to the north, located here, also known as 180 North Morgan Street, and the site of the restaurant known as Federales, and sub-area B to the south, located here, the larger one, known as 160 North Morgan, currently the site of a vacant drive-through bank. The proposed site is located on the western side of North Morgan Street, south of the Morgan Street CTA station, as you can see here, that serves the pink and the green lines. The site is currently surrounded by previously industrial buildings that have been zoned for neighborhood commercial and have been or are currently being redeveloped. Majority of the uses in the surrounding area consist of residential, retail, and office space, as you can see on the slide. Here you can see the PD boundary in a red dashed line, the larger footprint, and the property line in a black dashed line. Here are the existing conditions along Morgan Street looking southwest. As mentioned, this is the Federales site, and this is the old bank. We go,
And it's directly across the street from Do Right Donuts.
exactly, and Shake Shack, and a PF Chang's carry out place. Here are existing conditions along Morgan Street looking north and west. This is from Randolph with the historic Quincy building, along with, this is a front-centered view of the bank, old bank that will be redeveloped. And here's another angle. In terms of regional context, the project is in compliance with components of the West Loop Design Guidelines and the Folsom Market Innovation District Plan, which is detailed more in my staff recommendations. With that said, I will turn it over to Mr. Richard Clowder with the applicant team to discuss the project timeline and subsequent slides. Thank you. Is here.
Did we lose Mr. Clowder? He was on earlier.
Is he muted or something?
He just joined back and he was here, but he's joining back in.
Okay, thank you.
You're not looking for 8. I'm sorry.
I apologize. Can you guys hear me now?
Perfect.
I'm sorry. I lost power at the absolute worst time. But for the record, my name is Rich Clowder. I'm with the law firm of DLA Piper in Chicago. Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the commission. We do represent the applicant on this matter, which is a single-purpose entity controlled by Sterling Bay. I'm joined today by Fred Kroll and Kiana Barrett from Sterling Bay, Danielle Tillman and Angela Spadoni from BKL Architects, the project architect, and Louie Abuna, our traffic consultant from KLOA. Also present is AJ Patton, whose firm will be the recipient of a directed fee in lieu payment in partial fulfillment of the applicant's ARO obligation under the new 2021 ARO, which, as you know, goes into effect October 1st. We'll speak more about that later. In the meantime, the slide in front of you does detail the extensive outreach and community engagement process that resulted in a project that was reduced in scale and neighborhood impact and resulted in meaningful changes to the building's materiality, incorporation of setbacks, and entryway and landscaping enhancements. These items will be expanded upon by the architect, to whom I will now turn over the presentation, and who is Danielle Tillman, Managing Principal at BKL Architects. Danielle, please take it away.
Thank you, Rich. If you will go to the next slide, please. We wanted to show these images, which shows, as Richard was talking about, the project design evolution. These images show the modifications made based on previously stated DPD and community feedback. In these images, you will see the reduction in height to a 29-story building and the addition of upper level balconies as well at the southeast corner. You can go to the next slide. The increased podium setback at the residential entry plaza is further emphasized by the structural expression that is refined and pulled back to the facade of the entry. Next slide. We show here the overall building view from the southeast within the context of the West Loop, as well as upcoming developments that are also underway. Next slide. And this view from the northwest shows the building also within context, looking back to the east. Next slide. The pedestrian context was considered throughout the development of the project. The residential entry at the southeast area of the podium is emphasized by the metal structural expression and canopy. The setback at the lobby and elevation of the tower above the podium create relief to the historic district and the building to the south, the historic Quincy building. Next slide. Retail holds the street edge at the northeast side of the podium to continue an active street condition. Following the West Loop design guidelines, parking is screened and located at 2 levels above the ground floor, and the tower is set back from the podium at an amenity level and terrace where the ceiling will be highlighted with an art mural. Next slide. The location of the building along the vibrancy of Morgan Street and the activity of the Federales created an opportunity to continue the active street condition with the retail glass as it wraps the corner, and mosaic art is located at the visible conditions above the alley. Next slide. As we move to the plans, this is the existing plan in its current condition, again with a vacant drive-through bank. And if we go to the next slide, and then here we show the proposed site plan. Next slide. Looking here at the ground level, the residential lobby and retail are located again along Morgan Street. The podium is set back from the property line at the south to provide relief from the Quincy building to the south, allowing better access to parking and loading, which are accessed from the south alley. Next slide. Residential entry will be an active space with landscape flower bed, hardscape paving, as well as seating benches. There are also required bike racks located at the entry. Next slide. Level 2 is a parking level. Next slide. 3 and 4 as well, if we go to the next slide, have additional parking as well as additional bike parking. Next slide. Level 5 is a shared amenity level that will include indoor and outdoor amenities for the residents. Outdoor amenity also includes the dog run, which will be connected to an interior dog lounge. Next. We begin the residential plans here with level 6 with 8 units. Next slide. The lower tier, levels 7 through 22, have 13 units. The tower footprint shifts to consider relief from adjacent buildings, optimal unit layouts, as well as views. And the next slide. The upper tier, levels 23 through 28, has 12 units, creating 4 larger units and introduces unit balconies at that southeast corner. Next slide. Level 29 is an upper tier amenity level with roof deck with a pool. And then if we go to the next slide, we see here the roof plan. My colleague, Angela Spadoni, director at BKL Architecture, will take you through more of the exterior wall now.
Thank you, Danielle. Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for having us. We can switch to the next slide. So I'm going to explain the exterior design. We worked very closely with the city and took the comments from the community as we began to revise and get to what you're looking at today. So on the left side of the screen, you're seeing the east elevation along Randolph, and then you're seeing the south elevation on the right, which abuts the historic Quincy building. What I want to emphasize here, and what you've kind of seen through some of the renderings Danielle had on the screen, is how we took great care in kind of breaking down the mass of the tower. We've separated it into a north and south kind of expression. We'll discuss that a little bit more, as well as varied the heights of each piece to really let it break down and relate to the scale of the neighborhood. We have also, as you saw in the renderings, rounded the building with a masonry base to relate to the context, but the tower itself is primarily a glass and metal tower. West elevation, you're seeing, and then the north along the neighbor's Federales, and the art mosaic installation that you saw in the rendering that Danielle showed. These are diagrammatic sections, so you can understand the makeup of the program of the building. You saw that in plan, but in section, you can see our ground level of active uses, retail, residential lobby, and then a few back of house requirements. Sandwiched in as going up, we have 3 parking levels. We have amenity on level 5, which overlooks and activates the street front. Then we have our residential levels, 2 tiers of that, the upper tier having the balcony, as Danielle mentioned, and then level 29 is a full amenity level as well, with mechanical on top. So going in closer to look at a few of the details that we have developed, this is looking at the podium. You can see in the center, there's on the left side of your screen, there's the east elevation that's showing that residential entry. So this is composed of masonry brick that's wrapping it. And then we also have incorporated a metal canopy to provide shelter for the residents as they come and go from the building. And you can start seeing that structural expression come up the tower, grounding the tower to the base of the building and really connecting the tower and the podium. You see how it's starting to Y there. Thank you. Yeah. On the right side of the screen, you're seeing more of the corner that neighbors Federales. And this is your retail side. So you're seeing how the glass turns the corner to really open up the corner and respond to the traffic, the pedestrian traffic that's coming from our Green Line station. And then you see our 2 levels of parking, which will be a translucent glass. And then you see a peak of that level 5 amenity that's going to be overlooking Morgan. Next slide. Moving up the tower, on the left, you now see that B structure that's transferring our tower columns down to an uninterrupted entrance and kind of an open, pushback plaza for the residents. You see that there is metal vertical expression on the south side of the tower. It's a metal mullion cap, as well as the 2 structural elements that are carried up the entire tower as well. On the right, you're seeing the expression of the north side of the tower. So the vertical metal cap drops off and is no longer used. Instead, we are introducing a colored spandrel panel, and you'll see an example of that material later in the presentation.
I think she might be frozen.
Did we lose?
Angela,
Okay,
yeah.
I will continue for Angela until she comes back. Here we are seeing mid areas of the tower, where we can see here at that south block that the metal panel, as Angela was talking about, that horizontal condition, or I'm sorry, vertical condition actually maintains throughout the tower. And then at the north block, where we see the colored spandrel takes that condition vertically up the tower of the building. The consistency that is wrapping around horizontally through the building is this metal fin condition that wraps the building horizontally. Next slide. Again, moving further up the tower, we see that the expression at the southeast corner of the balconies, which are integral into the form of the building, and on the east facade of the building, where we can see how that, again, horizontal wrapping of that metal condition ties the 2 forms together, the 2 distinct north and south towers together. Next slide. So here we have an overall building view from the southeast, as we have adapted the building with the responses from DPD and community input. Next slide. We have here again a ground level site plan, which shows both the full PD site within its within this view here, and showing the intricacies of also the street planters, which will be located along Morgan Street as well. If we go to the next slide.
Danielle, I'm back on if you guys can hear me. If you want me to take back over.
We can, if you'd like to take
sure.
through the impact study.
All right, sorry about that. So yeah, the traffic impact study, as you know, KLOA is on the call. So we did our due diligence and there is a report on that. So any questions can go to Lue. You can go to the next slide. So these are our urban design consideration slides and some diagrams that help you further understand how we designed the exterior of the building. So the mid-block tower creates diversity of building heights across development. So at the top, you see the orange line showing how we did end the building height in different states to kind of really break down that mass. And then, ensuring that we have the continuity of the vibrant retail already started by Quincy and Federales and continuing that activation. And then directing, also responding to that unique condition of the proximity of the L tracks and how we respond to that by kind of setting the tower back and also considering sound considerations from that L track as well. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. Looking at the podium, we did set back the residential entry for a few reasons. One, we know this is a highly pedestrian traffic street heading north to south. So by recessing that entry, we give a lot more space for residential flow, and we're not clogging up that public way. Additionally, we wanted to set back against that Quincy building because the beauty of that building does turn the corner to the north. So by setting that entry back, we're actually able to highlight that building as you're moving south along Morgan. And then the connection of the Morgan Street activation, and how we are trying to connect that for a level 5 and really connect that those uses. And then Danielle did talk about that gap at level 5, that exterior amenity space that's also kind of responding to the scale and height of the Quincy building to the south and allowing for some relief between our tower and the existing Quincy building. Next slide. So the top of the tower, we really capitalized the design of this to really give views for the amenity space at the top. So views both north, looking towards the city, views south, and really orienting the upper level amenity deck to capture the sun and the sunlight. There will be a pool that's planned up there, as well as balconies for the upper tier residents to have light and air at the top as well. Next slide. Open space and landscaping. I think Danielle did touch on this a little bit as well, but just to reiterate that we have 4 trees that will be along Morgan. And then we have our entrance plaza that's going to be landscaped with flower beds, benches, and some highlighted paving patterns as well. Here's the building materials that I referred to earlier in the presentation. So we have a few different glasses going on. And, you know, we have our vision up the tower, and then we have some conditions where we're using spandrel to match vision. That should kind of just fade away. We have the accent spandrel glass I spoke of that we are using on the north side of the tower to bring color up and into the tower to really differentiate it among the skyline and continue that color of the brick base that you're seeing BR01 at the podium. Continuing on with the glass, we have some spandrel that we're using at the garage that is translucent, and then a metal panel as well. That color is shown. Thank you. You can go to the next one. Thanks. Our sustainability strategy, we are doing green globes, 2 globes, where we need to obtain 70 points. To do so, we're exceeding the stormwater ordinance by 25%. We're providing EV charging stations, and we're doing waste diversion during construction to get to the total 100-point requirement. And then for stormwater management, we are going to have an above ground detention tank. We're wrapping back to Morgan Street. And again, this does exceed the 25% requirement as part of our Chicago sustainability goals. So I'm glad I didn't get cut off again, and hopefully Rich is still on as well. I'm going to hand it back over to him.
Okay, thanks. If you could advance to the next slide. This project will proceed under the 2021 ARO. It is the first such project to do so. To fulfill the requirements, Sterling Bay will provide half of the 20% at the weighted average of 60% AMI on site with the unit mix you see before you. In addition, the applicant has agreed to a directed fee in lieu payment to fulfill the additional 10% requirement of over $5 million to help enable a project in the 3rd Ward at 26th and Federal to be undertaken by an up-and-coming developer, AJ Patton, who is with us today. This contribution will allow for his project to include 32 affordable units in his 44-unit project in what he is referring to as SL Solar Lofts, again, at 26th and Federal in the 3rd Ward. If you can go to the next slide, this slide shows yet more public benefits associated with this project, which is estimated to cost $120 million and which will include a nearly $2 million contribution to the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. As you know, local hiring and MBE WBE is of critical importance in this city and also, of course, to Sterling Bay. If you'd advance to the next slide, I'd like to turn over the presentation very briefly to Kiana Barrett with Sterling Bay, who will wrap up our aspect of the presentation by summarizing this slide. Kiana, if you're on and audible, please proceed.
Good morning. Thank you, Rich. Kiana Barrett, Director of Diversity for Sterling Bay. Consistent with our commitment to robust engagement of MWB participation, we will coordinate with the City of Chicago, assist agencies and other advocacy groups to ensure that there is full awareness of opportunities for bidding and participation. We will also engage the Sterling Bay Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Council to host networking sessions for direct contact between MWBEs and estimators and our GCs to be able to facilitate any question and answers and to ensure that packages are broken down into a palatable size. We also will be partnering with local developers and general contractors to build a pipeline of additional MWBEs to build capacity across the construction industry. And we'll be requiring that all of the bidding subcontractors commit to the highest standards of MWBE participation and engagement on our project for second and third tier participation. At this point, I'll turn it back over to the city to proceed.
Yeah. The Department of Planning and Development has reviewed the materials submitted by the applicant, and we have concluded that the proposed development would be appropriate for the following reasons. The proposal is in general conformance with the West Loop design guidelines approved and adopted by the Chicago Plan Commission. The proposal is also in general conformance with the Fulton Market Innovation District Plan approved and adopted by the Chicago Plan Commission. It allows flexibility in application of selected use, bulk, and development standards in order to promote excellence and creativity in building design and high quality urban design. The proposed plan development promotes transit, pedestrian, and bicycle use, ensures accessibility for persons with disabilities, and minimizes conflicts with existing traffic patterns in the vicinity. It further complies with building orientation and massing, as evidenced by locating active uses, doors, and windows adjacent to the sidewalk. It also demonstrates urban design excellence. And all sides and areas of the buildings that are visible to the public are to be treated with materials, finishes, and architectural details that are of high quality and appropriate for use on primary public right-of-way facing facades. Please refer to my staff report for further details regarding this project and the plans identified here today. Based on the foregoing, it is the recommendation of the zoning administrator of the Department of Planning and Development that this application to establish a residential business plan development be approved and forwarded to the City Council Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards as such. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Searle.
Yes, if you could go back to the elevation that shows the open floor on one side, and then I may have missed this, and I apologize if so. How does one reach the open space in the south building, where the cutout is? Is there an amenity space on the north building that lets you get to that area?
Yes, correct.
Go ahead.
If you could go back to the the level 5 amenity plan.
Okay.
So you may enter, the two towers are connected. And so you may enter from the enclosed amenity space, and there is, and correct, thank you for showing that, access to that outdoor amenity from that indoor amenity space.
Okay, and then behind the enclosed space, I didn't even realize there's the outdoor space to the west as well.
Correct. The outdoor space does wrap from the south area of the tower, and then around to the west and north of the tower is the full amenity area, outdoor amenity area.
And so is that reachable from the ground level as well, or what level can you get to the elevator that would take you up to this, or the stairs?
The ground level will take you through these elevators and to this floor. Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Lyons.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Just a question. You had mentioned, as we're all sort of, becoming familiar with the new ARO, but I appreciated you mentioned the particular project that was going to be built in the 3rd ward. I think you mentioned that maybe the developer for that project was there. I wasn't, I don't know. I'm just curious when we might see that come to fruition. I think it's really great to sort of see this as part of the presentation and understand a little bit about, the sort of impacts, not just in this ward, but sort of the larger impacts that we're going to see. So I'm curious if we can learn just briefly a little bit about when we might see this project, and if there's anything the developer would like to say about it.
AJ, are you on? I'm not able to see whether you are. If not, I'll answer on your behalf.
Yep, I'm here. Absolutely.
Okay. Do you
Yeah,
mind
absolutely. I can
speaking a
spend
little bit
time.
about your project and maybe also including where you're at in the zoning process? I know that you're represented by Langdon Neal. You and he have been great collaborators in this process with us. And why don't you introduce yourself to the commission and speak a little bit about your project?
Thank you, Rich. AJ Patton, 548 Development. We've got this project here in 2548 South Federal. It's a great opportunity to create affordable units where there currently are not. It's a highly gentrifying neighborhood. Luckily, we got the opportunity to partner with Sterling Bay on this opportunity, that they're filling a funding gap that creates some space for more affordable units to actually come online. It will be at 548, we specialize in sustainable developments. So this will have a majority electric building, rooftop solar, EV charging stations. And then we partner with local workforce training programs as well in terms of how this will be built out. So we're really excited about this project and this opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Did that answer your question, Commissioner Lyons?
Yes, and I was curious, will we see it before the Plan Commission, or is this a different sort of project?
It's my understanding that AJ does require a zoning change, but it will be a type 1 and therefore not go to the Plan Commission, but go directly to the Committee on Zoning.
Well, look forward to following it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Tunney, followed by Commissioner Moore.
Thank you, Chairwoman. My question is more on the electrical vehicle stations. It sounded like there's 89 or so parking spaces and 7.5 EV stations. Two questions: how was that figure determined as a ratio? And then what is the cost, since it's new construction, of providing more EV as we probably look forward to more demand for electrical vehicles in the very near future. So number one, how is the number determined, the cost, and maybe I'll say why not more?
Chairwoman, before the applicant answers, I just want one point of clarification for Alderman Tunney, Commissioner Tunney. The 7.5 is actually the number associated with the sustainable checklist. So that's not the number of spaces associated with it. And then
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I just wanted to clarify that, and then the applicant can respond.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. That I was going to piggyback off that, Noah, and thank you, Alderman Tunney. So yeah, that's the section. Currently, there will be a minimum of 2 parking stalls that will be served by the EV charging station. In terms of cost, I'm going to turn that over to Sterling Bay.
Okay. Hi, good morning. This is Brian Bazanis with Sterling Bay. We are considering looking at additional charging stations, but haven't really landed on a number yet. We were following the requirements of the Green Globes 2 strategy, so we can look at adding more, but we're still looking at it.
Okay, so this is for the department then. What is the formula? How can it be changed? And I'm sorry, did I hear from Mr. Bazanis the cost per stall? I didn't hear that, I don't think.
I don't have a good estimate on what the cost per stall is right now. I can look into that and provide further information later.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to the zoning committee, of which I chair. But back to the department, what are we doing in terms of this issue?
Sure. Alderman Tunney, Commissioner Tunney, it's Noah again. So there's a minimum of 1 stall would serve typically 2 cars, and that's the minimum to receive the points under the sustainable policy. We certainly encourage them to put in as many as possible. In order for them to get their permit, they will have to submit the sustainable checklist at the time of permit. So any changes or any alterations that they want to make to something that they're proposing today, that will all be vetted and finalized. We have a gentleman in our office, Brad Robeck. He's our sustainability officer, and he reviews all these when they come in for building permits. So at a minimum, if they want these 10 points, at a minimum, it has to be 2 spaces. And as you heard from Sterling Bay, potentially they'll look at doing more.
Okay, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think it's probably not, since this building will be here for the next 50 to 100 years, and I believe we're heading towards this, and everyone has said it's so much easier to put it in with new construction than it is to retrofit. So I just don't know whether the sustainable issue can be addressed a little bit more appropriately as the technology is becoming much more available and the purchases are becoming whatever. And one of the problems with my understanding is there just isn't enough charging stations for the demand, for electric vehicles. So I just don't know how. Our point is, how do we get ahead of this, and how do we work with the Department of Planning or other departments in regards to this requirement? So, and you know where I'm going with it. So, okay.
Is that it, Commissioner Tony?
Yeah, that's it.
Any other response? Any other response to that?
I'm going to look for some more information, Chairman, and I'll get this back to the Plan Commission.
Yeah, and where other cities are at too. Maybe we're.
I think we have a requirement in the code, and I'm going to check into that too for you. I don't have it off the top of my head at my fingertips right here, but I will find it and send it to all the Plan Commissioners.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
I really appreciate the line of questioning that you're asking, Commissioner Tunney, because you're saying, all right, are there things that we could be doing now to put into place as we think about the future? And we do have to, these are the very kinds of things I think that we do need to be thinking about, right? As we face some tough times. So and how can we both avoid and mitigate, right?
Chairwoman, I thought seven was not adequate enough, and then it went down to 2. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, well, it'd be an interesting thing, I think, to come back, Noah, to the Plan Commission, and maybe we could even have a discussion about this. What is, are there things that could be put into place that would help ensure some forward thinking on this?
Madam Chair, I believe Michael Berkshire might have something to add.
I was just going to call on him, but is specific to this point because Commissioner Moore is waiting.
Yes, it is. It's in reaction to Commissioner Tunney's question. The Sustainable Development Policy can be updated by the department at any time. So I know Brad is looking into doing a pretty major update, but in the interim, we could make changes to any of the strategies within that policy. So we could increase the number of EV charging stations that are required in order to achieve those points associated with that strategy at any time.
Okay, so if you can work with Noah on this, go ahead, Noah.
Oh, yeah, just, I didn't realize my hand was re-raised, but just as a point of clarification, I just checked the section of the code, and for a residential building, 20% of these spaces are required to be EVSE ready or EVSE installed. So if there are 80, I'm sorry, what was the number of parking spaces, Josh?
89.
89, so they'll have roughly 18 spaces, and there will have to be EVSE ready or EVSE installed as part of their permit.
Did you want to say something from the developer? Was there any, I heard someone try, was that you, Mr. Bazanis?
I was just chiming in about the parking count.
Okay.
But I heard what Noah just said too about the 18 parking stalls. We'll take another look at that and make sure we're meeting the requirements of the Green Globes program and then required number of charging stations, whether they're fully charged or fully active at the time of turnover or future capacity and capability.
Yeah, good. Yeah, especially thinking about that's fantastic.
Chairwoman, just to add for those on the call, I'll give the citation so they can find it. It's chapter 17-10-1011. You'll find the requirements under that section.
What, you want to say it again?
17-10-1011.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so can we go to Commissioner Moore? Thank you for your patience, Commissioner.
Yes, thank you. No problem. That was a very interesting conversation. I definitely support environmental and sustainability issues. So I enjoyed hearing that. But I wanted to just say how actually pleased I am to see this partnership between Sterling Bay and AJ's company as a minority contractor. Is really, I'm very excited for him as he won a couple of Invest Southwest projects on the South Side. And I'm looking forward to working with him in other capacities. But I just wanted to give a shout out to him and let him know that that we'll be watching and supporting him throughout the process.
Thank you, Commissioner. Alderman Burnett, would you like to weigh in on this project?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner and Commissioners. So as the councilor said, they did meet with the 3 community organizations in the community. We also had a community meeting. The community's in support of it. We appreciate the fact, along with my colleague, the commissioner just said that they're working with AJ. Unselfishly, I'm allowing them to do the ARO in the 3rd ward because it's not just about my area with affordable housing, but also it's refreshing to be able to support and help a young African-American up and coming developer. Matter of fact, I think I want to grow up and be like AJ. He's doing great things. He's making a mark, and hopefully we could incubate more young people to get into the development field like him. So I appreciate Sterling Bay working with him. Appreciate Sterling Bay's commitment for MBWBE. But I also want to make sure that they hire people from the community so that my community can benefit from it. Again, the $2 million that's going to go to the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund is good for the rest of the Invest Southwest folks on the west and the south side. So we're unselfishly happy that that's happening to help build up those communities also. It looks that there's going to be about 200 to 300 construction jobs on this development. Several people would be working inside the building. Once it's done, it's going to help all of the other amenities throughout the community to be able to sustain themselves. I support this. My community support it. I ask for the committee to support it also. Hopefully, I can talk to Sterling Bay and their lawyers before it goes to zoning to make sure that we have a hiring component for people in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman. I also want to note for the record that Commissioner Novata has joined us. Did you want to make a comment or ask a question, Commissioner?
I would, thank you. And apologies that I missed this presentation. Commissioner Reyes and I were both at a groundbreaking in Pilsen. So I wish that I had been here for the presentation, but I do just want to speak to the Department of Housing support for this. It's exciting for us because this is the first instance where we're seeing the new Affordable Requirements Ordinance playing out. And one of the things that we're excited about, in addition to the partnership that folks have been speaking to and the spreading of some affordability to additional parts of the city, which we're excited about, we're also for the first time seeing lower incomes being served through the ARO. And that's been a big goal of ours. It's one that we put in place for the first time with this new ARO so that we're getting to lower incomes through these affordable units. So I want to add my support and my thanks to Sterling Bay and 548 Capital for making this whole thing work, and to the Alderman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Back to you, Alderman. You had a follow-up?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to note and make sure, just as I do with all developers in my ward, I'd like to see a joint venture with a minority contractor with whomever the contractor they're going to pick to do this development. So I appreciate if we can talk about that before it goes to zoning. Thank you.
Great. And I'm just about ready to ask for a motion, but let me go to Commissioner Cox first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to also just highlight and perhaps some of the things that have been stated from the other departments, because it's really, in many ways, is exemplary of what we hope to see. First, with a partnership between Sterling Bay and an emerging minority developer in 548. I think it is a testament to the new ARO that we are seeing affordable housing that goes outside of the ward that is generating this benefit. I think that flexibility has been long overdue, and I appreciate the Alderman's support to allow for this affordable housing to happen in another area that is gentrifying. I also would like to applaud the fact that it is an adaptive reuse project. So we are lifting up these historic assets and reusing them as well. That's very important to me. The Neighborhood Opportunity Fund contribution, when I see roughly $2 million contribution, I see 8 new Black and Brown entrepreneurs getting their start on the West and South Side, because the maximum grant amount is $250,000. So we should always think about that fund as real entrepreneurs opening real businesses in the South and West Side. And then lastly, I just want to give a shout out to BKL and their really tireless effort to massage the building proposal in a way that is very, very respectful for the historic district and the adjacencies, the kind of creation of a public realm in front of the residential tower, the destination of an upper level collective space. It's just extremely sensitively done. So I'm very pleased. I know this was a result of multiple reiterations and reviews with our staff, but I think the outcome speaks for itself in kind of exemplary building that I think will be a wonderful addition to the district. So very, very strong proposal, and very happy to support it.
Great, thank you. And do I have a motion on the proposed residential business plan development submitted by 160 North Morgan LLC for the property generally located at 160 North Morgan Street, finding that it meets the requirements for approval?
Moved by Commissioner Shaw.
Second.
Commissioner
Garza seconds.
I do have a hand that I missed. Commissioner Lyons, was that before I go to the vote? Commissioner Lyons?
Yes, apologies for the late, just hopefully a quick question. I think Sterling Bay had partnered with Hire 360 and has been a partner, and I was just curious if that was going to continue on this. I appreciated the slide about the economic and community benefits, and just curious, I know you've done great work with sort of that pipeline of apprenticeships and hiring from the community. So just curious if Hire 360 would be part of this as well.
Yes, Commissioner. We are proud of our partnership and collaboration with Hire 360 and do plan to leverage their resources and ability to help create workforce development opportunities for minority participants in particular. So that will be applicable to this project. And I did want to respond to the Alderman's comment pertaining to a joint venture. We are very proud to announce that we will be having a joint venture between Walsh Construction and Boa Construction on this project.
Great, thank you very much. And with that, the motion on the floor, who gave the second for that motion?
Commissioner Moore.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, with that, let me go to the vote. Commissioner Biaggi.
Yes.
Commissioner Brumfeld.
Yes.
And Commissioner Burnett is a recusal. Commissioner Cordova is a yes. Commissioner Cox?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
Commissioner Garza?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Kelly's a yes.
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Novata?
Yes.
Commissioner Commissioner Searle,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Tunney? Mr. Tunney? And Commissioner Wagasbuck.
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations. We appreciate the presentation and the great work. So we'll look forward to seeing this building.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is D3, a proposed amendment to institutional plan development number 1103 submitted by Chicago Jesuit Academy for the property generally located at 5058 West Jackson Boulevard. The applicant proposes to expand the Chicago Jesuit Academy campus located within Subarea A with the new 49,250 square foot three-story addition to the west of the existing Chicago Jesuit Academy building. Additionally, the applicant is proposing an 11,249 square foot expansion of Subarea A to provide accessory and non-accessory off-street parking generally located at 5043-47 West Quincy Street and a 9,952 square foot expansion of Subarea B to provide accessory and non-accessory off-street parking only to be provided to visitors of Moore Park, generally located at 5093-99 West Jackson Boulevard. This results in an overall expansion of the boundary of the PD by a total of 21,201 square feet. This is 20751, and it is in the 28th Ward. Ernest Bellamy will provide the context overview, and the applicant will present their proposal. Mr. Bellamy.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairwoman Cordova and members of the Commission. For the record, my name is Ernest Bellamy with the Department of Planning and Development. The application, as just described by the Chairwoman, covers the amendment of an institutional plan development across the sites listed 5098 and 5093 through 99 West Jackson Boulevard, 235 through 313 South Leamington Avenue, 5043 through 5099 West Quincy Street. The subject site is located within the 28th Ward in the Austin community area. Also on today's meeting are the applicant team. As a snapshot of the area of which the proposed PD is located, the Austin demographics break down as follows. To be concise, I will forego its reading. The subject site of the planned development is shown here in red in a rent boundary. It measures 140,333 square feet in net site area. The proposed amendment of the PD will add adjacent parcels to the east and south into the PD, a total addition of 21,201 square feet, growing the overall size of the PD to 161,534 square feet. The surrounding context is a mix of residential homes, Moore Park, and a senior living facility, making up the context of the immediate surroundings. In terms of regional context, the planned development aligns with the educational and public safety strategies outlined in the Austin Coming Together Quality of Life Plan. With regards to current zoning, the subject site of the PD is surrounded by a mix of RS3 and RT4 zoning. Specifics of the PD zoning are that the max height in subarea A is 66 feet, a total FAR of 1.4, and as well as a gross site area, as previously stated, of 161,534 square feet. In completion to the existing PD context, the additions of the PD will be unified under the PD's zoning criteria. The following are current context photos of the subject site of the proposed planned development. The first one is from Moore Park, the second looking southeast from Quincy, third looking northwest from Jackson Boulevard towards the site. Additionally, the fourth is looking at the Christ the King facade from Moore Park. 5 is the courtyard space. 6 is looking northwest at the Christ the King Academy from Jackson Boulevard, and 7 is looking at the existing Chicago Jesuit Academy from Jackson Boulevard. The following are some 3D aerial views of the site. This one from the northwest looking southeast across the site. And this one, another 3D aerial showing the existing site from the southeast looking northwest. From here, I will hand over the presentation to Michael Esger of Acosta Esger to go over the process of the project.
Thank you very much, Ernest. And thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the commission. Again, Michael Esger on behalf of the Chicago Jesuit Academy. We have had a really good process with Alderman Irvin and the community, as well as with DPD, resulting in some good changes to the project, both in design and also landscaping. And however, in this case, Chicago Jesuit Academy has been in the community for many years, and we thought it was appropriate to just take a moment for Tom Van Grinsven from Chicago Jesuit Academy to talk about the community process, which is actually an ongoing process with them, not just for this project. So Tom, if you could just take a moment to describe the process as well as the mission.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. And just to make sure, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So as Michael said, my name is Tom Van Grinsven. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Chicago Jesuit Academy. We're a tuition-free private school that's been working in the Austin community for the last 16 years. And we've been serving all boys in that time. This project is really in response to members of our community and our families asking us to open an opportunity for girls as well. So our hope is that we're going to be able to open a program for both boys and girls, whereas we've just been serving boys for the last 16 years. As Michael mentioned, we've been working really closely with our neighbors, with our families, and with Alderman Irvin throughout this process. That includes formal community meetings throughout the summer, in addition to individual conversations that have really helped us improve the project in a lot of really significant ways. So I'm very grateful for all of their work, very grateful for the consideration today, and happy to take questions as we move forward.
Thank you. Moving on to the next slide, some of the changes that were talked about, we had an intake meeting and looked at various ways and massings that we could add this addition. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that the team and DPD, we all felt that this scheme would be the most appropriate and maximize the site in the best way. And if we move on to the next slide, you can see the existing site plan. Christ the King is to your west or to the left side of the screen, and that there's no changes proposed to that building in sub-area B. In sub-area A, where the Chicago Jesuit Academy is, there's the building expansion, and as you can see on the next slide, building expansion as well as expanded parking areas to accommodate this expanded use, and also working with Christ the King to increase parking for them on the south side of Jackson and for Chicago Jesuit Academy on the east side. We work closely with DPD and landscaping to make sure that the parking lots were appropriately landscaped and laid out as we expand the area of the PD. If we go to the next slide, just a close-up of this area, there's a pickup and drop-off. Our traffic experts at KLOA is on the call. We and studied not only the traffic and the drop-off and pickup patterns, and we work closely with CDOT to come up with a good plan that's going to work for everyone in the community. If we go to the next slide, you'll be able to see the level 1 and level 2 plans just to show how this connects to the existing building, which is being preserved and enhanced. Next slide. At this point, I'll turn it over to Jody Buell from SCB, the project architects. SCB is here on the call with us. So Jody.
Thank you, Michael. Also, thank you, commissioners. So what you're seeing here is the elevations. So we have grayed out or half-toned the existing school, and then the addition is shown in the bolder colors. And you'll see that what we're trying to do is really work with the language and the character of the existing Chicago Jesuit Academy and enhance and create a more modern addition, but that is respectful to the proportions, the scale, and the color palette, et cetera, of the existing school. Next slide, please. What you see here is the landscape street elevation along Quincy. So this is really the connection. What you're seeing here is the connection. The entry plaza is there on your left. The existing building is to the left, which is cut off in this image. We'll see it in some other images coming up. But you'll see that we're basically trying to create this welcome center that has access both off of Quincy as well as off of Jackson Street that kind of connects the two buildings and gives that little buffer between them of a glass and metal kind of volume, and then a masonry enclosure, and the parking garage is on the ground level there, which is kind of screened from the street view to create a nice pedestrian path. Next slide, please. So here we're looking at an aerial view from the southeast, looking northwest. And you see how that new addition kind of fits into the landscape west of the existing building. Next slide, please. Here we're looking at the view from the northwest, looking southeast. And here this is Moore Park across the street from the school. So you have that connectivity, and then we're creating this courtyard, which we'll see in some future images. Next slide, please. So here's a kind of more close-up view off of Quincy, looking at the addition with the existing building on the left. Next slide. Here's another kind of more, you're down now more pedestrian level, kind of standing in the park, looking across Quincy at the school. You see there the Welcome Center entrance, and then there's a kind of a tower kind of lantern volume that we've worked closely with the windows there that you see, the punched windows along that staircase, really kind of celebrates the entrance arrival and the iconic, entrance to the school. Next page. Here's a slightly different view also from Moore Park. You see there the parking garage. We're also looking to incorporate a mural. So this is really this area is where the drop-offs and pickups will mostly occur from. And you see that as you walk along with the masonry facade, there's an opportunity for some mural at the ground level there, and we're actually working with the school and some alumni to help create that mural to work with a sense of community and as well as to celebrate some of the students that have gone through the school. Next page. A slightly different angle here. You see the mural. You're now on the sidewalk off of Quincy, heading towards the main entrance with the existing building in the distance. Next slide. And now we've gone over to the opposite side. So now we're kind of hovering over Jackson, looking at the interior courtyard from the southwest, looking northeast. And as you see, the new addition kind of fits into that landscape between Christ the King, which is on the left-hand side of the screen. And it creates kind of a courtyard. Next slide, we'll kind of go down and look in here a little bit closer. You see that we're creating kind of a collegiate courtyard between the two institutions to create a great gathering space for the students. Next page. A little bit closer up, looking towards Christ the King on the left, the Chicago Jesuit edition on the right, screening the parking garage. Next page. And now we've gone back to the opposite corner of the courtyard and are looking back towards Chicago Jesuit with Christ the King on the right-hand side. So you see this courtyard that we're creating to really enliven and allow activity for both schools to use that space. Next page. I'm going to hand it back to Michael.
Thank you, Jody. And so we mentioned earlier that we've been working closely with CDOT and KLOA and CJA to come up with a really good plan to make sure that we're promoting pedestrian safety. There's a lot of kids that come to the school. I think Commissioner Biaggi came up with a great idea to have a raised crosswalk from going north on Quincy, which was added to the plan yesterday, where we can have safe passage to Moore Park. There's also another passageway going south from across Jackson Boulevard. There is going to be bicycle parking added, and so this internal drive as well for safety. If we go to the next slide, more compliance with the code, we can see that, of course, the sidewalks and updates to the site plan will be constructed in accordance with CDOT conditions and direction, as well as the parking is appropriately shielded and landscaped, as mentioned previously. So I think even as of yesterday, we made some nice changes that everyone had agreed to. And moving on, we'll talk about the sustainability. Of course, we'll comply with the 100 points and the Energy Star program. We also met with stormwater and approved our approach for stormwater management on site. And the next slide we go to is the MBEWB, which we are certainly aware of, and Alderman Irvin always has a strong push in this area as well as for local hiring. And we have construction jobs, some permanent jobs, and certainly during the construction period, CJA and Walsh Construction will be working with the Alderman's office to make sure that we're complying with this strategy. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ernest to conclude, and we're available for any questions.
Thank you, Michael. In conclusion, the Department of Planning and Development has reviewed the materials submitted by the applicant, and we have concluded that the proposed plan development amendment would be appropriate for the following. The proposed plan development encourages unified planning and development, promotes economically beneficial development patterns that are compatible with the character of the existing neighborhoods, promotes transit, pedestrian and bike use, ensures accessibility for persons with disabilities, and minimizes conflicts with existing traffic patterns, as well as encourages shared parking. It strengthens the street by filling in gaps between buildings that interrupt the consistency of the buildings fronting the street, as well as all sides and areas of the buildings that are visible to the public are to be treated with materials, finishes, and architectural details that are of high quality and appropriate for use on primary public right-of-ways facing facades. Alderman Irvin is supportive of this project, and I believe he may be here. He has also supplied a letter of support. Please refer to my staff report for further details regarding this project and the plans identified here today. Based on the foregoing, it is the recommendation of the zoning administrator of the Department of Planning and Development that this application to amend the institutional plan development be approved and forwarded to the City Council Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards as such.
Thank you. Welcome, Alderman. Before I go to you, Alderman Irvin, I'm going to take questions from commissioners, and then I'll come back to you for your comments. Commissioner Flores.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for the presentation. My question is about the design. If we could go back to the elevations, maybe we'll start with the one along Quincy. From the presentation, I understand that we are treating the ground floor with one mural. Is that the only place that we're planning a mural? I'm a little concerned about the treatment On the other bays, I know you mentioned that the parking is getting screened, but I'm not seeing any specific screening of those white empty boxes.
Jody, why don't you?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah. Thank you for your question, Councilman Flores. So what we're looking at right now is really to kind of localize the mural. The work that we're doing in the adjacent bays, they are recessed. It is a precast or cast stone product. So it's a high quality material that we're actually infilling there, a panelized product. I don't think there is any reason that we couldn't look at extending the murals. So all those bays right now are basically what we're trying to do is kind of replicate the base of what is at the existing building has the stone base. So our intention was actually to try to modernize and create a similar vocabulary.
And I think the modern take is mostly successful. I would agree that maybe extending the mural would be a good idea, at least along Quincy, because I know you're doing something different on the interior court with maybe some seating and some other programs. So I would just suggest that we consider extending the murals to the other bays.
Yeah, we can definitely look at that.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Searle.
A similar question. I've been to the Christ the King school, and it's really, it may not show up so well in the drawings, but it's really a fabulous building done by a really great architect in Chicago, John Ronan. And I wondered if the parking structure also was considering, kind of relating to that building, because it's quite, different and more modern. And what features of this building and the addition on the other end are related to it?
I think that maybe Mike, are you on? I don't see him. To join.
I am. I'm here.
Okay, Mike, I don't know if you can speak to that.
Yeah, I think the John Ronan building is a beautiful building, certainly, and we're trying to relate to it by creating another system, a system of facade design that's rhythmic. You can see on the South Bay, there is a kind of a certain repetition and cadence that is trying to place the addition as somewhat of a background building. So allowing this just to blend in with both the kind of the rhythm of repetition that's shown in the Christ the King building and simple forms and volumes, but then also is able to relate back to the existing CJA building.
Yeah, I think to add to that, I think, Linda, the what we're trying to do there is that, this is a separate school. They're not the same school. So we definitely don't want to tie it too closely. We want to have that individuality between the two schools to give them their character. But I think we are doing a benefit to Christ the King by creating this kind of courtyard space. That's really, the focus. And then, like Mike said, the repetition, the kind of, spacing of the mullions, et cetera, that is working, a little bit with that. But we definitely don't, our intention was not to try to replicate or match the Christ the King building.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Urban, would you like to go ahead and share your thoughts with us?
Thank you. As it's been stated, really people don't realize that Chicago Jesuit and Christ the King are two separate entities, and how they do work together, but they are two separate entities. And the fact of bringing young girls to the Austin campus, I really think makes a lot of sense. We've had meetings with residents in the community, just familiarizing more people of the goings on at Chicago Jesuit, because it sometimes takes a back seat to what's happening at Christ the King. So we definitely did do a lot of that. But overall, I think this is a benefit to the Austin community by allowing young women, young girls, I should say, to participate at Chicago Jesuit in the environment that they have been providing and producing good young people. I know several young kids that have gone to that school turn out to be great kids, go on to high school and do well in college. So I think this overall is a benefit for the community. Secondly, the work that the CJA team has done with residents, I think, is also to be commended, even though they did have to purchase some additional parcels from residents. I think they were very fair in what they did with those residents, along with the city lots that they need to acquire for the additional surface parking. The point that I think one of the commissioners made, forgive me, I didn't catch who it was. I think it was maybe Lopez, that talked about the muraling along Quincy. I think that's a great idea that we may need to investigate a little further for those panels that will face the park on the, yes, that is it there, on the south side of Quincy. I think that's an excellent idea to consider, so it doesn't look so sterile at the ground level, since that primarily is going to be parking, on that first level. So all of the points that I think have been made, and also working with the construction team and their working with a joint venture with a local partner. All of these pieces work together, I think, and will create a great project for the community, not just as something being put in the community, but something that will add to the fabric of the community. So, we definitely support bringing this type of activity, and the fact that it's going to benefit a bunch of young girls on the west side of Chicago, I think is great. So with that, we do support the project, and we look for a favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. And that was Commissioner Flores. Commissioner Cox.
Yes, again, I wanted to state a few things that my colleagues have referenced. Quite frankly, I assumed that the mural that we were showing was really just to say all of these bays will receive artwork. We're showing you how it would play out in one. So I don't think there's anything particularly attractive about having a blank wall, where potentially that could be a canvas for art. So I hope that that's not we'll explore it, but we will definitely do it. I think the Ronin building integrates art in a very, very sophisticated way. They might want to look at that as the panels were taking, I think they were integrated into the architecture. And so they opportunity to celebrate art and to do something that has more of a permanence than a painted mural. I think it would be a strategic investment so that this looks really good for decades to come. And the last comment I would make is we really, the staff really tried to assure that the quadrangle, that the open space courtyard that they made, if you could go to that, was more than just an organizing principle, but that it was actually an activated space, that there would be ways to traverse this open space so that it functions more like a collegiate quadrangle than just an organizing principle. And I'm not quite sure that we've achieved that because it's sided by a parking structure on one side and classrooms with no doors, by necessity on the Ronin side. So I hope that the team will further look at the programming of that space so that it actually becomes the heart of the campus and not simply an organizing principle. So, but otherwise, I think the integration of the pocket parking spaces that have to sit side by side next to residential areas was something that I thought the team really worked hard to try to make sure that those parking spaces are not intrusive to people who have ample front yards, as you can see on the rest of the block. And so I think they have been able to disperse the parking loads by making 3 separate surface parking spaces that fit more in scale with the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion on the proposed amendment to institutional plan development number 1103 submitted by Chicago Jesuit Academy for the property generally located at 5058 West Jackson Boulevard, finding that it meets the requirements for approval?
So moved,
Motion by
Biaggi.
Commissioner Tunney.
Moved by Commissioner Commissioner Biaggi, seconded by Commissioner Tunney. Commissioner Biaggi,
Yes.
Commissioner Brumfeld,
Yes.
Commissioner Burnett,
Yes.
Commissioner Cordova is a yes, Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly, Commissioner Lyons. I think
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly did say he was going to step away. All right, Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
has Commissioner Reyes made it yet?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, for the record, Commissioner Reyes is here. I suspect you've been here.
Yes.
Thank you. Do you know about what time for the record?
11:20.
Thank you. Commissioner Reyes here, 11:20, votes yes on the item. Commissioner Searle,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw, Commissioner Tunney?
Yes, Commissioner Shaw is a yes.
Thank you, Commissioner, and Commissioner Weigelsbach.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Navarro is a yes.
Why did I do that to you? And it's right there. I'm sorry. I don't know why I jumped down like that. I'm so sorry, Commissioner. Commissioner Novata is a yes. All righty, motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Commissioner, thanks, everyone.
Next item on the agenda is D4, a proposed amendment to institutional plan development number 168, submitted by Rush University Medical Center for the property generally located at 1401-1555 West Congress Parkway, 500-532 South Loomis Avenue, 1400-1554 West Harrison Street, and 501-531 South Ashland Avenue. The applicant is proposing to rezone the site from IPD number 168 to C3-5 Commercial, Manufacturing, and Employment Districts, and then to IAPD number 168 as amended. The amendment will permit hospital uses to allow for the development of 5-story, 78-foot tall, 127,100 square foot inpatient hospital building with 70 parking spaces. Item 20702, this is on the 28th board. Brian Hacker will provide a context overview and the applicant will present their proposal. Mr. Hacker.
Thank you, Chairwoman Cordova and members of the Plan Commission. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Hacker. I'm coordinating planner with the Department of Planning and Development. As stated, this item is for an amendment to PD number 168, which is bounded generally by West Congress Parkway to the north, South Loomis Street to the east, West Harrison Street to the south, and South Ashland Avenue to the west, located in the 28th Ward, Alderman Irvin, the applicant of Rush University Medical Center. An overview of what we're proposing to do here. First of all, this is to amend PD number 168 to include hospital as a permitted use to facilitate the development of a 5-story, 134,907 square foot acute care hospital for Rush University Medical Center, as well as rezoning the entire plan development from PD number 168 to C3-5 district to PD 168 to allow for high-rise signage on the adjacent Rubschlager ambulatory building, another Rush facility that's currently under construction. This project is located in the near West Side community. It includes several neighborhoods and institutions within it, such as the Illinois Medical District and UIC. It's a community area of about 63,000 residents that's growing rather rapidly over the last 10 years, and it has a diverse population. The context map here, you can see in the white outline the location of PD 168, and within the red hashed area, the location of the proposed specialty hospital. And just for context here, immediately to the north is the Eisenhower Expressway. Located to the west is Rush Hospital and other Rush medical facilities. To the south is a hotel and a townhome development. Directly to the east, across Loomis Street, is the Andrew Jackson Language Academy, which is a CPS school. The net site area of the development site for the hospital is 2.9 acres, and the net site area of PD 168 is 8.4 acres. This entire PD is a redevelopment project of Rush Hospital. It was formerly occupied by student housing. So for zoning context here, to the west is PD 30, which covers the Illinois Medical District. It's mostly bounded by planned developments with CPS school to the east, the townhome and hotel development to the south, as well as some RT4 smaller scale residential to the southeast and further south. For a bird's eye view context, this is the view looking northeast. So this site falls between the West Loop and the medical district to the west. So this is looking east towards downtown. You can see the location of the expressway there. The next view here is looking towards the southwest. So you can see across Ashland Avenue where the Illinois Medical District begins, and you get a large cluster of institutional buildings with Rush Hospital, as well as UIC Hospital and medical school. The rendering here shows phase 1 of the development in PD 168. This is the Rubschlager Ambulatory Building, which is a Rush facility. So this is the view would be from the Eisenhower Expressway, and you can see the ambulatory building itself is located at Ashland and Harrison. Adjacent to it is a 986 space parking garage. The building is 11 stories, just short of 500,000 square feet in floor area. And it's currently under construction with the anticipated completion of 2022. This is another view of the rendering from the approved PD project. So this is looking from Ashland. You can see that there's a sky bridge that connects this building to the Rush Hospital facility. These are photos of the building currently under construction. To the left, this is looking west along Harrison Street. And to the right, this is looking east down Harrison from the intersection of Ashland and Harrison. This photo shows you the development site for the specialty hospital from Harrison Street. This is looking east towards downtown. This is the view looking west down Harrison Street. You can see the Rush Hospital in the background. This is the intersection of Harrison Street and Loomis. And here, this is what would be the northeast corner of the site at Congress Parkway and Loomis Street. To provide the planning context for this item, although it's not within the Illinois Medical District, it's adjacent to it. So bringing up the IMD master plan and design guidelines, I want to particularly call attention to the planning goal of focusing on Harrison Street as a main thoroughfare within the IMD and creating a pedestrian-oriented environment. This project pays attention and gives attention to that priority and promotes a pedestrian-oriented streetscape and frontage along Harrison Street that complements the work that's being done in the IMD to improve Harrison. More specific to the PD itself, there is future potential for a third phase of development on this site that's anticipated in the planned development bulk regulations and uses. Although there is no active development application with the department right now, it is a possibility several years down the road that the central portion of this site could be the location of a third phase of development for Rush. To provide some background on the project development, the PD was filed in May of 2021. It received departmental approvals from DPD and other supporting city departments between August and September of 2021. It was reviewed with the alderman in August, and a public meeting was held in cooperation with Alderman Irvin's office on September 9th. And at this point, I'm going to ask Carol Stubblefield and the Rush team to join us to take over, please.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. For the record, Carol Stubblefield with Neal and Leroy. Office is located at 20 South Clark. Here today on behalf of our applicant, Rush University Medical Center. With me today are members from Rush, TAG Architecture, and our traffic consultant from Sam Schwartz. As Brian mentioned, this matter does request approval to amend PD 168 to C35 and then to PD 168 as amended. Even though we are changing the underlying zoning to the C35, we are not changing FAR, bulk, or density. None of those things are changing. The C35 is necessary to add hospital as a permitted use and to allow the high-rise signs. This hospital use, it's important to point out that this hospital use is not emergency services. This is a project that will provide critical illness recovery and inpatient physical rehab services to patients in the greater Chicago market. Following their initial stay, these patients following their initial stay at an acute care hospital, they will be transferred to this new specialty hospital while on their road to recovery. This application has complied with all notice requirements. It has obtained the required approvals from CDOT, Fire, and MOPD. The project will comply with the city's sustainability policy and stormwater management. And it's important to point out too that diversity, equity, and inclusion are critical to the mission at Rush. Rush consistently exceed the equitable hiring participation goals set by the city on all of their projects. And this new hospital building will be no exception to that standard. Construction is anticipated to start in the first quarter of 2022 and be completed in the second quarter of 2023. It will generate approximately between 800 and 1,000 temporary construction jobs. And once the project is completed and operational, it'll add approximately 320 permanent jobs. The development team, as Brian mentioned, we did present the project earlier this month to the community, and we do have the full support of Alderman Irvin, who I believe is in attendance today to offer a statement in support of the project. I'd now like to turn it over to Bill Gray with TAG Architecture to walk you through some of the details of the project design and the development. Bill?
Thank you, Carol. Good morning, commissioners. I'm Bill Gray. I'm the CEO of GWG3 Architects. Actually, we're Taggart Architects. That's what we go by in here in Arkansas, but in other states, we're licensed in 26 states. We go by GWG3 Architects. So anyway, what you're looking at right now is the site plan, and you can see the new 5-story rehab hospital in blue to the east of the site. We are providing 70 new paved surface parking spaces. You can see the large green spaces to the north and south parking areas. We're also providing outdoor therapy spaces. You can see that down to the south of the site plan. And then we're providing also a outdoor dining unit right next to the entry. The main entry into the hospital is on the west side of the facility, and then we have a pedestrian entry on the east side off of Lewis. You can enter and exit the site from Congress Parkway, and you can exit only the site from Harrison Street. Next. This is kind of the overall site plan for the PD. You can see the Rush Schlager building to the west that's under construction. The service court area for the Rush Schlager building is under construction. and valet parking for the Rushfire building. You can see our building, the hospital in blue, and the 70 parking spaces that we're providing. Total parking will be 1,182 parking spaces. Existing will be 986, and we're providing 70 parking spaces as part of our project. Next, please. This is our landscape plan. We are providing 35 internal trees. 7 existing trees remain, and those are south of the parking lot. And then we're providing 16 new parkway trees. Most of those occur along Harrison. And again, you can see the park tree areas to the north and south of our new park lot. Next. This is a view from the southeast from Loomis and Harrison intersection. The main building materials consist of glass and metal panel. What we have tried to do is match a lot of the same materials that are on the Rushfire building and other buildings on the road campus in order to blend these buildings in together and give a cohesive campus instead. Room used to the picture you see here look to downtown Chicago. Next, please.
You know, you've been breaking up, and I think we're getting the gist of the bulk of what you're saying. If any of your colleagues want to supplement what you're saying, they'd be welcome to do that.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, much better.
Okay. Okay. This is the view from the northwest at Congress. What you see to the left is therapy spaces that look out to downtown Chicago. And this shows our main entry to the facility on the west side of the building. Next, please. This is a view from the southwest. As you walk along Harrison, you can see the new parkway trees and the large green space out in front of the hospital's main entry. Next, please. This is the first floor plan. It accommodates administration, indoor, outdoor dining, mechanical, electrical rooms, back of house services, service and delivery courtyard, and outdoor, indoor therapy. This is the second floor. The second floor incorporates 33 critical illness recovery beds and support spaces, and you can see the patient rooms around the perimeter of the building. Next, please. This is the third floor. It incorporates 14 critical illness beds, and half of this floor will be shelf space. Next, please. This is the fourth floor plan. This is all rehab beds. You have large therapy spaces at the west end and day room dining areas at the east end. This is the fifth floor plan. It incorporates 16 rehab beds and 12 brain injury beds and support services. Again, large therapy rooms and day rooms at the end of the building. These are just the 2D elevation drawings. The one you see at the top is the east elevation, which faces Loomis. The bottom elevation is the elevation that faces Harrison. At the top of the fifth floor of the building is 7 feet tall. Again, this is 2D elevations. This is the west elevation facing our parking lot in the Rushfire building. And the bottom elevation is the north elevation, which faces Congress. This slide just gives you the idea of the architectural context we're trying to play off of. Our building is to the top left. The orthopedic center is at the corner from this building. And the Butterfly Patient Tower is to the west of our site. I'd like to turn it over to Ray LeBlanc to speak to the next slide.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Bill. This is Ray LeBrecq, Associate Vice President of Facilities Management at Rush. What you see is a result of our traffic study. Kelly Conway with Sam Schwartz is also on the line if you have questions. This is based on our review of the program, the anticipated trips per day for the specialty hospital. And it'll show you the breakdown also of where we anticipate the traffic coming from. Basically, also almost a 50-50 split between employees and visitors. It has good access to public transportation with the CTA Blue Line stop right there at Loomis, and several bus lines in the area. Next slide. And these are some of the recommendations from the traffic study. This will show the study's results that this area will not be adversely affected based on this development. It calls for some restriping along Loomis, both from the northbound direction and southbound direction, providing more defined turn lanes onto westbound Harrison. On Congress along this site, so we'll have two entries as you've seen on the site plan, one from Congress, one from Harrison. Congress is a one-way eastbound lane, and the approach would be a right turn in, and the exit would be a right turn only out onto eastbound Congress, which we provide stop signs and one-way signs on Congress. Now, I'd like to make a correction to what's shown here. We've revised, the drawings are all correct in the presentation. After the community meeting and discussions with Alderman Irvin, what we're going to have on the Harrison Street access is access from westbound Harrison will be a right turn into the site, and the exit will be a right turn only out of the site. There will be no left turn from eastbound Harrison. And then on the site itself, with the number of lanes we have at the Port Cochere, we'll have good, easy access in and out and into controlled parking on the site. Next slide. This explains the stormwater management on the site. The site is basically bifurcated by our access road north-south. On the east side, any of the stormwater from the site or the building will be retained in an underground stormwater retention basin. And on the west half of the site where the parking and grass areas are, this will be in an open swale in the grassed area along Congress. Next slide. As far as the public benefits, as Carol mentioned earlier, we're anticipating, based on the size of the construction, somewhere between 800 and 1,000 estimated temporary construction jobs for this project. On the permanent jobs, we see a large range of jobs will be provided for this project, anywhere from physicians and nurses, PAs on the clinical side, therapists, to many support jobs such as environmental services, food services, security, and the like. As with all our other developments at Rush, we have a plan to meet the 26% minority business, 6% women-owned business, and the 50% of Chicago residents. As we are right now on the Rupschlager building, we've also added our own goals for what we call our anchor mission area, which are the neighborhoods bounding our project, where we are promoting construction and permanent jobs to our local community. And we've had some good success so far on the Rupschlager building. Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Ray. So to conclude here, it's DPD's recommendation to approve the zoning map amendment to institutional plan development number 168. Following justifications, encouraging unified planning and development within the plan development, promoting economically beneficial development patterns that are compatible with the character of existing neighborhoods, promoting transit, pedestrian, and bicycle use, reinforcing desirable urban features that are found within the surrounding area, creating seamless or gradual transitions in bulk and scale when high intensity development occurs in or near areas with a lower intensity character. So it's the recommendation of the Department of Planning and Development that the application for a technical amendment to institutional plan development number 168 be approved and recommended for passage to the City Council Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Hacker. I have a set of questions. We had public testimony this morning on this, and then we had a letter that was signed by several residents in a development or in the townhomes across the street. They're worried about traffic and about noise. So I'm wondering if, I know you all talked about the movement based on the recommendation from Alderman Irvin around the not allowing a left turn going east off of
Harrison.
But I'm wondering, and I know you talked a little bit about the traffic, but I think, but if you could go back and talk about what you're really doing to mitigate the traffic, and you also mentioned, I know, the proximity to the blue line. But if you could address specifically the findings of your traffic analysis, and also something about address the issue around noise.
Carol, I can take the issue of noise. As we heard from the public comment earlier, there are not going to be any emergency services here. So we will not have ambulances coming to this facility. We will have medical transport coming, but they are not siren vehicles. These would be to bring patients from other acute care facilities onto the site. This building will be serviced off of Congress. So any deliveries or trash pickup would be on the Congress Street side of this building. Kelly, if you're on the line, if you'd like to add anything as far as the traffic generation.
Hi.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name's.
I was just going to say, can we get the site plan up so we can talk it with some specifics about circulation, and we can always go back to that data sheet, but I think it would be helpful to look at the site plan as we're talking about circulation of the site and access. If that's helpful to you, Kelly, I mean, your call.
No, it will be helpful. And also, if you can also address whether you did a traffic impact analysis.
I'll turn it over to Kelly. Thank you.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Kelly Connolly, representing Sam Schwartz Consulting. My firm completed the original traffic study for the BD, as well as this most recent update to include the proposed specialty hospital. So we had a set of recommendations that were developed out of that analysis related to access, circulation, and intersection improvements that were reviewed by the Department of Transportation and are reflected in the site plan. A few of those improvements are related to internal circulation in the porte-cochere, access location, the primary access point being from Congress Parkway, with the secondary access on Harrison. And I'll note or reiterate what Ray was mentioning, that the new Harrison access is shown as a right in and right out, so no median break as requested by the alderman and the community. Other improvements are striping related, specifically at Loomis and Van Buren across the interstate to accommodate an increase in northbound left turns headed back to the interstate. I'll also just note that our analysis used nationally compiled data for hospital uses, of which this is actually a much lower traffic generator than a typical hospital use. So our analysis that was reviewed and approved really presents quite a conservative projection for site traffic.
Great, thank you very much. A third question that was raised this morning in public testimony was about the next phases, and I think people in that area were interested in knowing what's facing them down the line here. If you can go into a little bit more detail, as much as you can, to for the public on that.
Yeah, hi, Carol. I'll take that one. So at this time, Rush has no plans for what that a third building might be on that site. After the Rupschlager building is open, that's going to take care of a lot of our pressing ambulatory needs. And this program that's moving to the new Rush Specialty Hospital is actually, we're moving some of our existing, well, all of our existing rehab beds from the Bowman Center on campus to this new location. So it's really just going to, for right now, that's going to relieve all of our urgent space needs. So we'd be looking out sometime into the future before we think that we'd need another building on campus.
Okay, and I would assume and hope that at such time that you would involve surrounding neighborhoods in any kind of planning. But what I'm hearing you say, there's no talk about it now. No, so there's no projection even as to when, what or to when.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, and go ahead, Commissioner Reyes.
Yeah, thank you. I'm interested in the job component. So I would like to hear what was your experience with the construction of the previous building, and then with this current development, what are your efforts to access employment opportunities, to bring employment opportunity to the adjacent communities?
So currently on the Rupschlager project, we're up to actually about over 300 workers a day on the project. And the plan that we executed for the Rupschlager project was we worked with Trinal on that project as our outreach consultant. They worked with many of our neighborhood resource partners, and we've held several job fairs to promote the work both on the business side and the WNMBE side and on the workforce side. We've been tracking those opportunities. It started with job fairs for the businesses and then job fairs for workforce. So far, I don't have the list with me, but we've had many success stories on the business and workforce side. I believe we've already hired, or the project has generated at least 11 permanent jobs on the construction side, and our security firm is actually from Alderman Irvin's ward, so we've supported many jobs there too. We also had our workforce outreach meetings that we've had for the community. We also included Rush HR representatives and some of our local partners. So we've actually expanded it to be more than just jobs on the construction or any of the construction teams, but also jobs at Rush itself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. One of the things I'd also like to remind you all on the MBE stuff, whenever we request the reporting, if you'll be sure and give us back that reporting when that request is made. Do I have your guarantee that you'll respond to those requests? Yes.
Yes, we always do. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, some are really good about it, and then we keep hearing about others who aren't. So we really appreciate it when you're responsive. That you are responsive. So thank you. Okay, and excuse me, Alderman Irvin, did you have anything that you wanted to add? You're still with us? Yes, you are still with us. Do you wanna-
Yes, yes. Again, as was stated, we did meet on this project fairly recently on the, I guess, on the heels of the Ruschlager building. A few questions as were given in public comment were addressed at our community meeting that we did hold on the project. I do agree with the development team as it relates to noise and other items, as I live near one of these facilities, a long-term acute care facility in the East Garfield Park community, as it relates to traffic and it relates to noise, which has been virtually non-existent other than just regular street level ambient type noise. So I think overall, what they're bringing to the site and to the at the outside of the IMD is definitely beneficial to not only the west side of Chicago, but to the community in general. And the work they're doing now, Ruschlager, has been demonstrative of that. So again, we ask for favorable consideration from the commission on this.
Thank you, Alderman. And with that, can I have a motion on the proposed amendment to institutional plan development number 168?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Burnett. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Wagasback.
Thank you. Noah, do I need to finish reading the rest of that, or are we good?
Yes, please.
Submitted by Rush University Medical Center for the property generally located at 1401-1555 West Congress Parkway, 500-532 South Loomis Avenue, 1400-1554 West Harrison Street, and 501-531 South Ashland Avenue, finding that it meets the requirements for approval. It's been moved by Commissioner Burnett and seconded by Commissioner Wagasbach. I see no hands for further discussion. Let me go to the vote. Commissioner Biaggi. Commissioner Brownfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Burnett.
Yes.
Commissioner Cordova is a yes. Commissioner Cox.
Yes.
Commissioner Flores.
Yes.
Commissioner Garza.
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly. Commissioner Lyons.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes.
Commissioner Novata.
Yes.
Commissioner Reyes.
Yes.
Commissioner Searle.
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw.
Yes.
Commissioner Tunney. And Commissioner Wagasbach.
Yes.
Madam
Chair.
Commissioner Tunney is going to leave a proxy yes. I've sent the form to his office to complete.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Villegas. Would like to be recorded as a yes as well.
Oh, fantastic. And recorded as present. Do you have any idea about what time you got here for the record?
I got here at 11:45.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We'll note that for the record.
Thank you.
And your vote yes. Thank you very much. Motion.
Chairman, just confirming you got Smeed, Commissioner Shaw, right?
I did. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, with that, motion passes. Congratulations. We'll look forward to the new facility in the area.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you. So last item, I know commissioners are disappointed that we don't have 17 items, but we're getting close here, although we still have an informational item afterwards during Chairman's update. So let me move along to item 5, proposed amendment to plan development number 92, submitted by Swedish Covenant Health DBA Swedish Hospital for the property generally located at 2826-36 West Foster Avenue. The applicant seeks to change the zoning designation of the site from residential institutional plan development number 92 and RS-3 residential single unit detached house district to C1-5 neighborhood commercial district, and then to residential institutional plan development number 92 as amended. The amendment would expand the boundaries and create 2 sub-areas within the resulting plan development. The expanded area will be developed with a new outpatient medical facility consisting of a 7-story building, including medical offices, medical outpatient facilities, and 32 parking spaces. Item 20574, this is in the 40th Ward. Michael Berkshire will please provide the So Berkshire will provide the context overview, and the applicant will present their proposal. Mr. Berkshire.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Michael Berkshire with the Department of Planning and Development. The applicant, Swedish Covenant Health, doing business as Swedish Hospital, is here today to request approval of an amendment to PD 92 to expand the boundaries of existing PD 92 and create two subareas. Subarea A will include Swedish Hospital's existing medical campus, and subarea B will include the subject property, which will be improved with a 7-story building that will operate as a medical outpatient center. The subject property is generally located at 2826 to 36 West Foster Avenue. All right, there's a bit of delay here. Okay. The project area is located in the Lincoln Square community area. Lincoln Square has a population of 40,494 individuals. Over half the residents are between the ages of 20 and 49, and almost 70% live in 1 to 2 person households. Over 60% of the households in Lincoln Square are renter occupied. The proposal is located on West Foster Avenue between North California Avenue and North Francisco Avenue. The expansion of the plan development number 92 is illustrated here in orange. The surrounding land use is residential to the north across the alley, and the existing Swedish Hospital campus to the south and east of the proposed site. I will now pass the presentation over to Graham Grady with Taft Law to explain some of the details of the project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Berkshire. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Berkshire, thank you. Also, Chair Cordova, thank you very much, and members of the Plan Commission. First, Chair Cordova, I apologize. All this time I've been mispronouncing your name, putting what's the phrase? I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah,
So please accept my apology.
Well, but you know what? I got to tell you, Graham, Mr. Grady, that we can really blame Ricardo Montalban for that. Remember the car, the Cordova?
Yes.
Right, and so he's really the one who kind of trained people's ears to think, Cordova, right?
Yes.
Corinthian leather. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, to make it even worse, I was practicing for this, noticing that I mispronouncing your name, and it's Cordova. I just got back from Spain, and I was in Seville, and of course, I had a day trip over to Cordova, just to make it even.
Well, no, actually, no. And the accent really is on the first O.
Oh, so even in Spain, it's the
yeah. It
you
really
in Spain have it right.
Yeah,
Cordova.
yeah. The accent really is on the first O.
Well, thank you, and members of the Plan Commission, thank you. I apologize for that digression.
Yeah.
My name is Graham Grady. I'm with the Taft Law Firm, and along with my co-counsel Sylvia Mikas, we're pleased to represent Swedish Hospital, and we appreciate your review of this application. We're very excited about this new medical office building that's proposed, shown in the foreground here. And initially, Commissioner Cox, I want to thank you and your staff, Michael Berkshire and Noah Safranek, but in particular, First Deputy Commissioner Claudia Harasmi. Ms. Harasmi actually came out to the site, toured the campus, went up on the rooftop of our tallest building to survey the situation. And that is a high-touch customer service, government professionalism at its best. So, Commissioner Cox, I want to commend you and your staff, but in particular, Deputy Commissioner Harasmi, for coming out to the site to actually take a look around. But back to our presentation. Other members of our team who you'll hear from are Saliba Kokeli, who's the Vice President of Operations at Swedish Hospital, Glenn Syrup, who's the Senior Principal at the architectural firm of Jensen and Halstead, and Lue Abuna from KLOA. Other members of our team are available to answer questions. The project has been reviewed by the community. We have a letter of support from Alderman Vasquez, and the project, of course, has been reviewed and approved by CDOT, MOPD, Fire Prevention, and Stormwater. There have been several public notices, and as I mentioned, a community meeting. I'd like to turn it over at this point in time to my colleague and the project architect, Glenn Syrup. Glenn?
Thank you, Graham, and thank you, members. As you can see in the slide on the screen, this is the aerial view. So the building that we're proposing is trying to keep in touch with the rest of the campus. You can see the building to the east, the Foster Medical Pavilion. We're really taking a lot of cues from the language of that building to create a kind of a bookend on this block. And we do have the space, there is still the space in between to the east of our building that is also being considered for future development. So this would really be the direction of the growth of the campus. We can go to the next slide. This is the pedestrian context, looking at just the street level view. And let's see, we can move on to the next slide. So the timeline, we filed 9 months ago, actually 9 months ago today. And then in the last 9 months, we have been working with the planning department to elevate the design and really develop the site. And some of the agreements or things that have come out of that are our tree planting program, where a Swedish hospital is agreeing to plant 20 new trees on the site over a 3-year period. We did some redesigning of the facade through the help, as Graham mentioned, of Ms. Erasme, and we added some really pedestrian level elements to boost the experience of pedestrians on the site, and also looked at the building, the design of it from as you look from afar, particularly as you approach from the west. And also looking at the color scheme to make sure that we were in the right, as we're trying to, work with the existing building at Foster in California. So you can see this is on the left is the initial submission from 9 months ago. And then some of the big differences you can see is along the street front, we've added a lot of landscaping and just elements to create more interest and more space, bike racks. The first floor is going to be medical office. There are 2 levels of parking above that. And then the top 4 floors are office building. You can see one of the other major changes is we kind of mirrored the building in the east-west. As I mentioned, the approach from the west, so you get a little better feel for this white frame on the top of the building. Also added a lot of fenestration and a little more detail to the fenestration. I think that's it. There we go. On the site and ground floor, you can see again in front, the building is set back on the front elevation along Foster Avenue about 10 feet to give space for pedestrians, landscaping, particularly there on the west side, and then a strip of landscaping in between the pedestrian entrance, which is kind of, yeah, that's the landscaping. And then between the pedestrian entrance and the garage entrance to promote pedestrian safety as cars are entering and leaving the garage. The first floor plan on the right side is the ramps up to the parking on the 2nd and 3rd floor. On the left side is going to be patient care, medical office. The north side of the building off of the alley will have a loading space, and then those spaces along the alley will be more of the mechanical, electrical, water rooms, and then obviously the receiving room from the loading, which will bring back into a rear elevator lobby. The 2nd and 3rd floors are parking. We have approximately 32 parking spaces. And then the 4th through 7th floors will be medical office, outpatient medical office services. The roof will be a green roof, approximately 8,900 square feet, and then also a mechanical penthouse. The green roof matches the similar design to what is at the Foster Medical Pavilion. The front elevations, again, you can see similar to the rendering, the top of the building is 96 feet. The penthouse goes up to 108 feet, which once again matches the Foster Medical Pavilion right down the street. You can see along the street front that we have vision glass at the entry and patient waiting areas. The next elevations are the north elevation. This is facing the alley. Then the east elevation, where you can see the perforated metal panels from the parking garage to allow ventilation. And then the east or west elevation, again, you can see where the box was turned, the white framed area to accent the elevation. Building section, give you a sense of this space. And then our facade elevation to show kind of at the street level that the impact of the sun shading and the darker framed element that was added along the street front to bring scale and interest at the pedestrian level. And then on the very left, you see there's a decorative panel, which we'll talk about later in the material section. For transportation, there are bus stops along Foster, so it's very close to public transportation. Again, the traffic, we have a limited number of parking spaces inside the building. The loading area is in the back along the alley to keep, the only deliveries that they get is very small box trucks, so, but that traffic will be in the alley and not along Foster. We are providing bike racks in the front adjacent to the entry, and then also a bike room inside for staff to use because we imagine a lot of the staff will be local and could commute by bicycle. A traffic study was done. The results were basically that there would not be a large impact of traffic due to this building. The existing street system is generally in place to accommodate this. There will be a left hand turn arrow at Foster in California. And then also a requirement or a recommendation that we use visual warning devices for the exit of the parking garage, again, for further pedestrian safety. For the urban design, for our street front, about 50% of the street front is vision glass, where you will be able to see inside the patient's waiting, entry, and lobby area. The height and massing is similar, as you can see in the background, to the existing Foster Medical Pavilion, and signage is prominent but not overbearing. Landscaping, again, as I mentioned before, the building is set back 10 feet. We have a significant amount of landscaping on the west side, and then on the east side surrounding the parking ramp and along both sides of the building. For materials, it's a metal composite wall panel in 3 colors. The dark area is kind of hidden behind the tree, but that's framing the pedestrian level. And up in the higher portions of the building, the main portion of the building is a tan panel, and then the white framed element. For glass, we're looking at a nice blue, as they say, vibrant blue. Move on. The perforated metal panels will be for the garage for safety and appearance, but to allow natural light and ventilation into the garage. This is a sample of a kind of a laser cut decorative panel that we are proposing for the area on the first floor. facing the street. And then an example of what we were looking at for the sun shading system. For sustainability, we've identified 100 points minimum that we would be able to achieve for this project.
At this point, we'd like to hear from Saliba Kokeli, who is the representative of the hospital. Saliba.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Graham, and thank you, Madam Chair, and the commissioners for giving us the opportunity to present this project to you. Just a quick snapshot about Swedish. Swedish is a community safety net hospital that has been serving the most diverse residents of Chicago for over 134 years. More than 50% of our patients that are being served, they are low income, they are Medicaid or uninsured. At the same time, our hospital, Swedish, is a teaching hospital. We train new physicians who stay in the community, and actually they like to practice there. And we are considered one of the largest employer on the north side of the city, with nearly over 3,000 employees and nearly 500 doctors. Just to mention, at the heart of the COVID pandemic, Swedish treated the fourth highest number of COVID patients of all the hospitals of Chicago. Since the beginning of the pandemic, Swedish has vaccinated over 45,000 people, conducted over 75,000 COVID tests. At the same time, we did contact tracing on 1,653 COVID positive cases. I think building this medical outpatient building allows Swedish to expand community access to healthcare. At the same time, increase our medical services in treating cancer care and cardiology for patients. Finally, this project will create at least 75 construction jobs. At the same time, it will create another 75 permanent jobs. And our goal is to contract out no less than 26% of the work to minority-owned firms, plus 6% to women-owned firms. At the same time, we want to hire Chicago residents. At least 50% of these jobs will be hired to Chicago residents. Again, thank you for commissioners, and I'm pleased to answer any questions.
Great.
Thank you. We also want to give a shout out to Stormwater. Mackey Consultants is terrific on this project and all of our projects, and we have the approval of Stormwater along with all the other bureaus.
Again, for the record, Michael Berkshire from DPD. It has been concluded that the proposed development would be appropriate for the following reasons. The proposal promotes economically beneficial development patterns. The proposed plan development amendment ensures a level of amenities and services that are appropriate to the nature and scale of the project. And public infrastructure and city services will be adequate to serve the proposed development. Please refer to the staff report for further details regarding this project and the plans identified here today. Based on the foregoing, it is the recommendation of the zoning administrator of the Department of Planning and Development that this application to amend Residential Institutional Plan Development 92 be approved and forwarded to the City Council Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Do we have Alderman Vasquez here to make a statement, or is there a letter on file?
There is a letter on file. I don't believe the alderman is here today.
And indicating what?
Approval of the project. Excuse me.
Great, that's okay. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, do I have a motion on the proposed amendment to Plan Development number 92 submitted by Swedish Covenant Health, doing business as Swedish Hospital, for the property generally located at 2826-36 West Foster Avenue, finding that it meets the requirements for approval?
So moved by Commissioner Searle.
Commissioner Searle moves, seconded by
Commissioner Burnett.
Thank you, commissioners. Any further, not seeing any further discussion, let me go ahead and go to the vote. Commissioner Biaggi. Commissioner Brumfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Burnett.
Yes.
Commissioner Cordova is a yes. Commissioner Cox.
Yes.
Commissioner Flores. And let's see here. All right, Commissioner Garza.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Kelly is gone. Commissioner Lyons.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes.
Commissioner Novata.
Yes.
Commissioner Reyes.
Yes.
Commissioner Searle.
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw.
Yes.
Commissioner Tunney. Oh, I think, did you tell me? I think he left. No, that was the last one. He left. Okay. He had to leave. Commissioner Villegas. And commissioners, we don't know Commissioner Villegas. Commissioner Wagaspaw.
Yes.
Fantastic. Motion passes. Thank you for the presentation and congratulations.
Thank you all very much, Commissioner and members and staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Now we turn to under Chairman's update and informational presentations, an information presentation for a proposal update to provide an on and off-site affordable housing units to meet the ARO obligation for PD 1433 located at 1050 West Van Buren, which consists of a 196 dwelling unit, 21-story mixed-use building approved on December 12, 2018. The developer proposes locating 14 studio 1 and 2 bedroom ARO units on site and 14 2, 3, and 4 bedroom ARO units off-site at an existing and 8-unit building at 2329 West Monroe Street and an existing 6-unit building at 2312 West Ohio Street in lieu of providing 39 studio 1 and 2 bedroom units on site. Proposal combined on and off-site proposal is permitted by PD 1433 and sections 2-44-090 G4 and 2-44-090 G6 with approval by the Commissioner of the Department of Housing. Ricardo Lopez is here and will provide us the overview and for this proposal. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Chairwoman Cordova and members of the Plan Commission. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Again, for the record, my name is Ricardo Lopez, ARO Project Manager with the Department of Housing. The update that you're about to hear is for a project located at 1050 West Van Buren. This proposal was previously approved by Plan Commission on December 12, 2018 under PD number 1433. The developer is electing to place some of its ARO units off-site. Although this is allowed by the ARO, because this is different from what was presented and approved by this body back in December of 2018, we asked the developer to provide an update for full transparency to the Commission. Off-site units are subject to the approval of the Commissioner of Housing. As part of the Commissioner's review process, we wanted to give you an update and an opportunity to provide any comments and ask questions. At this point, I will turn it over to Katrina McGuire from Thompson Covert, who will walk you through the details and the changes of the proposal.
Thank you, Ricardo. You can go ahead to the next slide. Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman, members of the Plan Commission. Again, Katrina McGuire from Thompson Coburn here, along with my colleague, Talar Berberian. It's our pleasure to be here on behalf of Tandem Partners, LLC, the development team for this project. Next slide, please. As Ricardo mentioned, this was a project that was approved back in December of 2018. It was sort of a sister project to PD 1431 at 1125 West Van Buren, which you see towards the bottom of your screen on the south side of Van Buren. Both projects are being developed by Tandem Partners and were approved at the same time. It was always contemplated that 1125 West Van Buren would proceed first, with 1050 West Van Buren, which is the subject property here, to proceed next. Next slide, please. Here's just a rendering of the triggering project. The triggering project was approved as a 201 dwelling unit building, and it has since evolved and been revised somewhat, and the unit count now stands at 196 dwelling units. Next slide, please. It's just a typical residential floor plan of the 1050 West Van Buren site. As you can see, it consists almost entirely of studios and 1-bedroom units with a handful of 2-bedroom units. Next slide, please, Ricardo. Just a little bit of history on our offsite or our ARO work here on this project. As noted, these were approved together, the two PDs. There was extensive community engagement before Plan Commission and ultimately City Council approval. The development team was transparent throughout the process that we were always going to be seeking to place at least some of the ARO units off-site. Once 1125 West Van Buren was completed, we started work on this subject site on 1050 and began to work closely with Department of Housing on looking at some off-site options for the fulfillment of a portion of our ARO obligations. We looked at proposing or at the Harrison and Francisco site, which is the townhouse development for sale. However, Department of Housing denied us that request because we were outside the boundaries, outside the 2-mile radius and within a different income area, which was not permitted under the ARO. We then proposed some alternative locations last summer. Those sort of fell apart, again, primarily because those buildings were not vacant at that time. And neither Department of Housing nor the developer really wanted to be in the business of displacing existing residents. So we went back to the drawing board for a third time and found the two locations that I'm about to describe to you this summer and began to work with Department of Housing on getting those approved, at which time they asked us to come back on this informational basis, which is why we're before you today. Next slide, please, Ricardo. So again, just to recap, so what was approved for the PD and what is proposed. And one thing I should note too is that at the time of Plan Commission approval, unless you have your offsite location selected and approved prior to Plan Commission, there's no way to sort of hold that as a placeholder within your PD if you do want to have that opportunity to do it later. The ARO ordinance and the PD statement does provide, which is the process that we're in right now, for commissioner approval for changes in our ARO programming. The plan development would have required with the 201 units to have 40 units on site at a blend at a mix of 60% and 100% AMI. Those would have been spread out consistent with the unit mix of the market rate units at 20 studios, 18 1-bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. What's being proposed here is a hybrid. What we're proposing is to have 16 of the ARO units on site within 1050 West Van Buren. Those would be at 100% AMI, and those again are spread out consistent with the unit mix of which would provide 7 studios, 7 1-bedroom units, and 2 2-bedroom units as affordable units on site, and then 14 units off site in 2 buildings, 3 2-bedroom units, 7 3-bedroom units, and 4 4-bedroom units, and all but 2 of those to be at 60% AMI. As part of this proposal, we would be availing ourselves of the incentive to construct larger units for ARO purposes. Next slide, please. This is the first of the 2 offsite locations, 2329 West Monroe. That's just existing conditions. As you can see, it's a building that's in need of some significant work. Next slide, please. Also for the Monroe, this is a street context. As you can see, it's neighborhood scale development generally, and that has seen substantial investment in recent years in the area buildings. Next slide, please. This is a little hard to see, but it's really just to provide sort of context for the local amenities for these units at, in proximity to the proposed offsite location. It's in close proximity to dining, groceries, schools, churches, parks, as well as transit. It is a TOD location the same way that the triggering project is as well. Next slide. The site plan for 2329 West Monroe, it's an existing 8-unit building with 5 parking spaces. There's some rear yard open space. And this building consists of 4 3-bedroom units and 4 4-bedroom units. Next slide. This is the second offsite location that's being proposed at 2312 West Ohio. This is in a better condition than the Monroe building, but still needs some significant rehab work. Next slide. Similar to Monroe, this is a street with neighborhood scale buildings that have seen investment in recent years. Next slide, please. Again, just a local amenity map showing the same sort of proximity of grocery stores, dining, schools, churches, as well as transit. Next slide, please. Then the site plan for 2312 West Ohio. Again, this is an existing 6-unit building with 2 parking spaces. This building consists of 3 2-bedroom units and 3 3-bedroom units. Next slide. The developer is making significant investments in both offsite projects, over $209,000 per unit at the Monroe site, and over $325,000 per unit at the 2312 West Ohio building. In conjunction, there's also a $5,000 per unit fee to Department of Housing for evaluation and administrative costs, and allows Department of Housing to ensure that these are comparable to on-site units. As far as the physical work to be done on these sites, it's all new windows, all new mechanical systems, tuck pointing on the exterior, and then new high quality interior finishes and appliances. Next slide. This is just to outline the comparison sort of the offsite locations to the triggering project as far as community areas. In this case, the 2329 Monroe building is in the same community area as the triggering project, which is in the near west community area. And then the 2312 West Ohio site is in the Westtown community area. Both very similar, with the Westtown community area having slightly higher per capita and median income rates, and a little bit fewer multifamily structures in that neighborhood. And then final slide. As we conclude, we'd like to thank Department of Housing first and foremost for working so closely with us on this over these last several years and ensuring that the proposed offsite units meet both the letter as well as the spirit of the law. And we really believe that this proposal does that. The proposal being sort of a hybrid provides both a mix of both on and offsite units. It allows for the preservation of existing density and existing gentrifying neighborhoods, significant investment in the offsite units that brings those buildings to market rate standards, but with a 30-year covenant ensuring long-term affordability, provides more bedrooms, 54 versus 42, than if the units were all built on site, and provides housing choice by providing both units, affordable units within a high-rise setting, as well as in a neighborhood scale setting. And that concludes our presentation, and the entire team is available for any questions that the Plan Commission might have.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. Again, for the record, Ricardo Lopez with the Department of Housing. Again, I just want to remind members of the commission that there is no vote on this measure since it was previously approved, and their subsequent changes are allowed. We wanted to provide this update as part of the commissioner's review process for offsite units and for full transparency. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lopez and Ms. McGuire. So I'm going to call on Commissioner Reyes, but again, to reiterate what Mr. Lopez has said, we don't need to vote on this item. It is within the purview of the Department of Housing and with the Commissioner of Housing to make a decision as long as the minimum requirements are met. But as a way to get our input, since we're the ones who originally approved it, the Commissioner and Mr. Lopez wanted to be able to get our reaction to, our thoughts on to this proposal, and as she takes into account the various factors to make her decision. So with that, let me call on Commissioner Reyes.
Yeah, briefly, I truly appreciate the fact, the significant investment as we saw the per unit amount that this developer is investing in the offsite units. And I am pleased to see that those offsite units are going to be larger units, which is what families need, and that they are set at 60% AMI. I appreciate that. My only My only request is if we could see some of the units on site, those 16 precious units that you're going to have in these beautiful buildings, if some of those could be at 60% AMI. That will be my request. But I do appreciate the effort, and I value the fact that you are taking two properties that clearly are underutilized and that they need significant investment to convert them into long-term, decent, safe, quality, affordable rental housing. So I'm just asking if it is feasible to come out at least with a couple of units on site at 60% AMI.
Any response to that?
So what we're proposing here, Commissioner Reyes, we appreciate your comment and your thoughts on that, is to have all of the on-site units be at 100% AMI. Quite honestly, as you hear from many developers, it is a key component on sort of the long-term or the financeability and the viability of the project is to have those units at that higher income level.
I understand that. I asked if you were willing to look into at least one of those could be at a lower income. So that's if you'd answer to me that you will look into that, I will appreciate that. Or are you telling me, no, we're not, we're set?
No, of course, we're going to look at that. Of course, we'll look at that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burnett.
Thank you very much. I welcome to have the units in my ward on Monroe. I appreciate the fact that they're going to be bigger units. Just tell me, Ricardo, are these going to be in the land trust?
Good afternoon, Alderman. These are for rental units, so they will not be in the land trust.
So how do we have affordability in perpetuity?
For us to be able to get this into the land trust, they would have to be for sale units. In this case, what the developer is proposing is it's comparable to what's in the market rate.
Well, there was a reference made by Ms. McGuire to covenants.
There will be. Yeah, I'm happy to jump in here if that would help. Yeah, so these would be.
Describe those.
Yeah, so these would be, Alderman, ARO units managed just like any other rental ARO units. The property would be subject to a restrictive covenant that's recorded on the property that is enforceable by the city of Chicago to the extent that the affordability restrictions and covenants are not preserved and maintained.
So how long would they be? How long would they be preserved, though? That's
30 years. It's a 30-year covenant.
Okay, it's a 30-year covenant. Okay.
That's correct.
And Alderman, just to add to that, before they get their permits, the department makes sure that we check in with DOH, there's holds in the property, and those covenants have to be recorded before permits are issued.
So the land trust is only with for sale properties, it's not with rental properties.
Correct.
Okay, so with all of the rental AROs, we have to have covenants in for 30 years. Is that what we do with all of them?
That's correct, Alderman. And I would just add a note to say that the affordability clock starts at the time that the last affordable unit is leased. And this would apply for both the on-site and the off-site units.
All right. Can I get a copy of those covenants? I'd like to see it and read it.
Sure.
Is that possible? All right.
Of course.
And so the covenant that they're producing is consistent with all of the other covenants that you all get. Is it a covenant that you all write out and folks just add it to their mortgage or lease or what have you?
That's correct, Alderman. We draft the covenant in conjunction with the Department of Law, and we share it for review by the developer before it gets recorded by the county records of deeds.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. I'd like to see that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Searle.
The Ohio Street property is directly across almost from me, from our house in what we call Ukrainian Village. And that property's been sitting there for a long time. So it's nice, and it seems to be occupied, but it's nice to know that that can be improved and managed as affordable units. I think that's great. There are 4 properties on Erie Street, just to the north of these properties, that are still vacant, that we approved in Plan Commission for affordable housing, I would say 2 or 3 years ago now. Of course, there were neighbors next door who said, well, we have $1 million properties and we don't want these. And, we're all saying, wait a minute, this is a very mixed income neighborhood and we want to keep it that way. So I'm hoping that maybe also the Department of Housing could look at those lots and see what's happening there, because nothing has been built yet. And to me, those should have gone forward by now. So anyway, just to expand our concerns about affordability and where we can get them.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Great, thank you. Commissioner Novata, did you want to add anything as we wrap this up?
I appreciate everyone's listening and comments and questions, and appreciate the developer coming back to provide this update just to keep everyone informed. And we are, we are very interested in what this offers, in the sense that we have heard from lots of folks that not everyone wants to live in a high rise in the West Loop. And so we are, in this instance, providing some opportunities in that kind of setting. And we're also providing 3 and 4 bedroom units, which we really very rarely see in our triggering projects, in neighborhoods with higher than the city average incomes and access to transit and all of the things that we want to do through the ARO. So we appreciate the hybrid that this represents and the work that went into it, and appreciate the chance to just keep everyone in this body informed as projects do sometimes go through changes. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Thank you, Ms. McGuire and folks from Tandem Development. We're almost done. Next month marks a year since the Invest Southwest was initiated. So I've asked Commissioner Cox to come next month and provide a longer update for us, but I wanted to give him a chance to just for a couple of minutes to give us an update on that and just say something about where we are in that and the we will. Commissioner Cox.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. As Chairman Cordova said, we are quickly approaching at the end of October, the 2nd year anniversary of the mayor's announcement of the Invest Southwest investment strategy. And since that time, the city has released 10 development opportunity requests for developer proposals that has yielded over 35 responses of extraordinary teams that are showing up in the manner that the mayor had hoped they would. Some of the most diverse joint venture development teams anywhere to be found in Chicago, on sites that are critical front doors to many of the communities that are on the south and west side. And so emerging is an extraordinary story of catalytic investment that builds community wealth and that just enhances the overall quality of life. So I welcome the opportunity to begin to report out to this body because you will start to see planned developments from the Invest Southwest portfolio coming before this body. And so it feels like, and I think you will all be very proud of how Chicago has responded. So we have the last round of the RFPs that we received in late August, had a very robust response, and we'll be mounting the evaluation process. So by that time, we may actually be able to report out on all 10 responses. So that's just a little preview, and we will report out by the numbers, both in terms of new housing options, dozens and dozens of businesses that will find their place in these developments, and quite frankly, hundreds of millions of dollars of investment that have been leveraged by those public dollars that were set aside to catalyze really inclusive economic development on the South and West Side. So I look forward to giving you the full report in our next Plan Commission meeting.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And I did say, and that it would be the next Plan Commission meeting, but I'm hearing we may have a really huge agenda again next month. So if we don't get it in next month, we'll get it in the month after. But
absolutely, it'll be ready whenever we have the time. I actually like the full agendas because that's just a testament to the enormous economic resurgence post-COVID. So keep those agendas packed, please.
Yeah, it is a good sign. Good things happening in Chicago. But we do look forward to getting a more detailed update and appreciate what you've told us here today. So thank you very much, Commissioner. So I think I've still got a quorum for adjourn. What happens if we don't have a quorum to adjourn? I just kidding. But
Don't move.
thank you, Commissioner Burnett. Seconded by
Commissioner Searle.
Thank you, commissioners. All right, I have to do the roll call. I'm not sure if Commissioner Biaggi made it back, but Commissioner Brumfeld,
Yes.
Commissioner Burnett,
Yes.
Cordova's a yes. Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
I believe Commissioner Flores had to leave. Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
all right, and Commissioner Kelly is gone. Commissioner, he was hoping to get back if we were still going. Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
Commissioner Novata,
Yes.
Commissioner Searle,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw, Commissioner Tunney, Commissioner Villegas. I saw Commissioner Tunney, but I think he just walked away. Commissioner Tunney, Commissioner Villegas, and Commissioner Wegasbach.
Yes.
Chairman Cordova, you skipped me.
She did.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You know what? I just figured out as I was doing this what happens and why I end up skipping sometimes. So, all right.
It's a yes.
Yes. You don't want to hang on another couple hours.
No.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you, staff. Thank you, Barb. And thanks for technical support as well. All right.
106 for the record.
Thank you. We're adjourned. Oh yeah, that's right. We are adjourned at 1:06.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.